Dice, yeah, ay, ay.
This conversation is about healing, not the dramatic kind, but the honest kind that happens when you finally slow down and listen to yourself. Oscar's guest, Daniel Esposito, shares how pain, injury, and burnout forced him to rethink everything he thought he knew about strength, discipline, and self-worth. We talk about the body's wisdom, how stress shows up when we ignore it, and why healing doesn't mean fixing what's broken. It means learning to work with what's already there. This is a grounded conversation for anyone who's tired of ignoring their body and ready to feel great again. This is the FYI I Am Damaged podcast. Now, a word from our sponsor. Oscar wrote a wonderful children's book called Logan, the Strong-Minded Little Elephant. Check it out.
Meet Logan, the strong-minded little elephant who learns that bravery isn't about being fearless. It's about believing in yourself even when you're scared. In this beautifully illustrated story, friends follow Logan through a colorful jungle as he learns to calm his worries, take deep breaths, and remind himself, I am strong, I am safe, I can do this. It's a story that helps kids, and maybe a few grown-ups too, find courage, mindfulness, and strength in their hearts. Logan, the Strong-Minded Little Elephant, by me, Oscar Luna. Available now at all major retailers and my publisher's bookstore, Milton and Hugo. Because it's up to every parent to show that their child deserves to know that strength starts from within.
All right. Daniel Esposito, thank you for joining me on another episode of FYI I Am Damaged. And getting right into it, before the diagnosis and the pain, who were you? How did you see yourself as an athlete, a man, and a provider?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Thank you.
I have a kind of an interesting story of childhood where I was in 5 elementary schools, 1 middle school, 3 high schools. Mom married 3 times. So there was a lot of movement in my life. So I learned very quickly that the fastest way to make friends is to be the best athlete. So you kind of jump right over everybody else, right? You're number one. And so every time I moved schools, it was like, all right, show them what I can do, show them what I can do. You know, always one of the fastest guys in any, school that I went to. I had to relegate myself to second fastest in college and then eventually second fastest in the high school I went to in Florida, just because there were 2 guys that, stole a little bit of my thunder. So then I didn't play football until I was a senior in high school. So I was a baseball player before that. I was a catcher, and it turns out the high school team that I played for, our starting catcher was the same age as me when we were sophomores. I had moved down to Florida again. He was the highest ranked catching prospect in the history of high school baseball at the time, and the backup was Jason Varitek. So I was like, oh, maybe I'm not that good of a catcher. I'm going to go maybe try another sport or something like that. And so eventually I moved up to Philadelphia, live with my father, and decided to go out for football, and wanted to be a tailback. The high school coach made me a fullback, told my father I was not a running back because I don't have this. Walked on to a Division II school, didn't start till the 3rd game of my senior year, was offensive player of the nation the first game I started. And then from there on out, it was all the scouts came. I actually earned the starting position my junior year. But since I was a walk-on and there were 2 scholarship athletes ahead of me, 2 days before the game, or the night before the game, the first game my junior year, I got demoted to 3rd string by, doing nothing. And I told the coach, my running back coach is like, hey, you've got to tell me why I'm not starting or even playing or even carrying the ball, or I'm just going to leave, and they told me. I was like, all right, well, he told me, so I'm a man of my word. So I'm going to stick it out. I'm going to finish up my junior and senior year here as a role player, but always knowing that I could play in the NFL. Like I knew from an early age. In 4th or 5th grade, I remember seeing a Detroit Lion running back make a cutback as I was going out to play football against all the older kids in the neighborhood. I was like, I can do that. And I went out, and then I eventually did it. I had the Redskins and Dolphins calling me on the second day of the draft as a free agent. Chose the Redskins. Unfortunately, I should have went to Miami, but my agent gave them the wrong phone number. And so I ended up with the Redskins. So in total, I had 4 contracts with 2 teams, 2 broken jaws, no full seasons. Broke my jaw in my first play ever, actually, in Kansas City, kickoff. Broke it in 2 places, here and here. So talking about pain, all the teeth here were pointed this way, and this tooth turned that way. I played the entire game with a broken jaw in 2 places. Didn't tell my coaches till like the last couple minutes of the game when it became unbearable. So I know pain, and I can deal with pain. But the pain that I eventually started experiencing through fibromyalgia, degenerative arthritis, needing 4 joint replacements, that's an unbearable all day, every minute, every second pain that, like, honestly steals your spirituality. There's an interesting, I don't know if you're familiar with Zach Bush. No. He's a doctor. He's very spiritual, very Christian. He was on the first podcast I ever listened to that allowed me to kind of get down the pathway of healing. So what happened is, actually, when I went through a lot of stress in my life. I was making a ton of money in the mortgage business. It was whatever, President's Club, all that stuff. And then the mortgage industry just collapsed. I decided to start an energy brokerage. I knew nothing about energy, but I knew it was the next thing. Like, I knew energy deregulation was big. It was starting to open up in Pennsylvania, where I'm at now. And during that time, I'm just eating a lot of pizza, right? I'm like, I can eat anything I want. I'm just going to work. I'm eating like 2 Domino's pizzas a day, like 3 days a week. Like, I mean, on my own. Yeah, I was just like, I'm going to work. I'm going to make this successful, because I had a kid on the way, right? And I didn't account for that. So now I really got to make money. And so I think, looking back, I can feel the inflammation starting to happen in my body. I'd eat that slice of pizza and I could feel that change. And I was like, I don't know what that is, and it'll go away. But what was really happening was just inflammation. And the interesting thing is that everybody sort of agrees that inflammation is the root of all disease, but nobody knows what inflammation is, right? If you if you conceptualize inflammation, you'll just see like a picture of a body that has a bunch of red all over it, right? Thinking that it's like just this quick attack or whatever. But inflammation is really a cycle, right? It's a cycle of healing. God designed you to heal. You were designed, He built you. Your DNA is the same exact DNA that's going to heal you and put you back together if it's given the right code, the right nutrients, the right programming, right? And so anyway, the inflammation cycle can happen from stress, right? And certain genetic stuff that we can talk about later contributes to that. But it's mainly lifestyle. It's mainly food, malnutrition, or eating the wrong foods, or you have some sort of accident that has happened, like a car accident that causes a bunch of inflammation. So what happens is the body recognizes there's an intruder. It's not your body attacking itself like medicine will want you to believe. Your body recognizes there's an intruder. It could be a jab, it could be a medication, it could be a food, it could be chemicals coming out of the sky, it could be anything. And so now your body recognizes that and basically creates a cytokine release, which then is C-reactive protein. And so this only happens in these moments of inflammation. That's why when you get a rheumatoid arthritis diagnosis, because they've measured a lot of C-reactive proteins in your bloodstream, well, that's only now, right? It's not. So that rheumatoid arthritis, so that cytokine release now creates a clot, which becomes a fibrin. And they're going to tell you it's scar tissue, but it's scab tissue. And they'll say you can't dissolve it, but it can be dissolved only under certain conditions. And so when you start knowing, like,
a scar would be the aftermath, but if it's a scab, that means it's ongoing. It's trying to heal something.
You can break it down. Like a scar, when you think of a scar, you think of something on your skin that's just, it's there forever, basically. You can't get rid of it for the most part, right?
Internally is different, right?
Yeah, but if you see a scab, like that scab's going to go away. Yeah. Right? Eventually it's going to become a scar, but it's different internally. So that scab will happen, right? And then the white blood cells come, they start trying to repair the area, and collagen will respond to shore up the area as well, to stabilize the area. Now you've got 2 proteins that can harden. The fibrin, fibrosis, fibromyalgia, right? Just literally speaking, fibromyalgia is really just a bunch of fibrins, but so much more happens in the body. So it's not really just that. But if you want to conceptualize it, just think of fibrins as fibromyalgia. Then the collagen happens. The collagen needs 8 ingredients in order for it to be built correctly. 4 amino acids and 4 cofactors that tell the amino acids what to do. Collagen supplements typically don't have these 4 things in it, right? So these amino acids are just splotching around. They're not building healthy collagen. Healthy collagen has to cross-link. Right. And do you remember those Chinese finger torture devices? Hopefully that's not wrong to say. But that's how collagen is supposed to cross-link, right? So it now can move with your body, right?
Finger traps, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Without vitamin C, I'm from the 70s. So without vitamin C, it doesn't cross-link correctly. Right. So then you build this really bad collagen in that area where you've had an inflammation response or like an accident, right? A car accident, you've been punched, you're working out, little bits of inflammation, whatever it is. So now you've got these 2 things that need to be broken down, right? So we look at it mechanically, not as some sort of, far off chemical, biological thing, right? Just look at it as the mechanics. So that fibrin wants to be broken down. The way that God naturally gave you the gift to do that is through what you're supposed to be doing is fasting, right? But we all stopped fasting, didn't we? And the only time that this happens, and it's a release of enzymes from the liver that scour the body for proteins when your body's in starvation mode. So now those enzymes only release at 20 hours of fasting. So this intermittent fasting that everybody's doing, you're missing it by 4 hours. And even if you go that extra 4 hours, it's just started at that time, right? So you got to kind of let it cook. And so it was the second thing I did. So going back to Zach Bush and the first podcast I ever listened to when I decided that I was going to fix this, it was on hydration, because I realized when I drank better water, not the cheap water in the bad plastic bottles that's acidic, but actually mineral water, I felt better. My head started clearing up. So when the lymphatic system stopped draining from all the pizza and junk that I was eating, and I had a rough lifestyle as well, football and all that stuff. So I probably had some inflammation already built up in my body that made me stiff, but not fibromyalgia and arthritis. So his take on hydration was what this podcast was about. And it was Dr. Mercola, who's the godfather of like alternative medicine and in the digital age, and Zach Bush. And he was talking about hydration at the cellular level. And so I got a C in college biology. I cheated off the smartest kids in the front row of a big auditorium because I knew the professor would be in the back, right? I figure things out. So I didn't know much about the body at that point. But what he was talking about was hydration at the cellular level. And then I started thinking, well, everything's made up of cells. So how do I make healthy cells, right? And so one of those things, and we'll just skip the red light therapy, but one of those things, the second thing I did after red light therapy was a 3-day fast. And as I'm sitting here in this 3-day fast, it's just click, 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 click. I was like, what the heck is going on? Like, I'm starting to if I was to look at somebody 2 years ago, I would have had to turn my whole body like this, pretty much. And so now, my neck's fine and I walk barefoot. But back then it was rough. But anyway, he posited, you cannot have a spiritual experience dehydrated. And I was like, I feel the same way about chronic pain. Like, you are in anxiety, fight or flight. When you're in anxious mode, you're not in a gracious mode, right? Anxiety and gratitude lie in the same place in the brain. And it says in the Bible, when you feel anxious, be gracious, right? And so those 2 thoughts really can't exist. But when your body is in a state of fight or flight, which those pain signals are sending you into fight or flight, that signal to me is the most primal signal, right? I don't care how much you meditate or whatever it is, you're not truly going to get rid of it until you get rid of what's causing those chemical biological reactions in the body, which is something's hitting these pain receptors, right? They call fibromyalgia a neurological disease. It's not really a neurological disease. Something's hitting these pain receptors and it's bad tissue, right? It's worn out, crusty, dehydrated, fibrosis, oxidative stress tissue that's now rubbing against these pain receptors. Anyway, so I'm drinking good water. I have no idea about supplementation at this point, but I know that I had this thing happen in my body. A few weeks later, a girl comes to me and says, you should try MSM, which is sulfur, right? And I've tried that before a long time ago, didn't really notice anything because everybody wants a quick magic pill and they don't know what they're listening for. But it really is super effective. So anyway, I start supplementing with sulfur. And as soon as I do, I start getting the click, click, click. again, right? I was like, oh God, what's happening? And then so, you go and find all the medical studies, which I have all the medical studies that back these things up. But when you fast, it creates a sulfur response in the body, but also those enzymes are releasing, eating those things up. But the sulfur response wasn't messing with the fibrin so much. It was reorganizing my collagen, right? When you have so much inflammation, you're going to build so much unhealthy collagen unless you're eating correctly, the 8 ingredients to build healthy collagen. So I would take an Epsom salt bath or supplement with it. And what I didn't know is that it was causing me massive anxiety. Like, I mean, worse than you could imagine. But physically, I was like, oh, God, things are finally, I'm starting to be able to move. I see light at the end of the tunnel. Meanwhile, this was 5 years ago, however long ago it was. It's been such a long journey. But what I didn't realize, and now I had a second son at this point, he was basically the reason I said to the universe, I said, I'm going to fix this. He was 3 months away from being born. I was 265 pounds. I couldn't walk up or down a flight of stairs without massive pain. It was, to be honest, if it wasn't for my first son, I might have considered checking out. Like the pain was, my thought process was, this is no way to live, like to be in chronic pain like this all the time. And if you go on the message boards on social media, Reddit, you'll see that people are in great, great despair when they're in chronic.
Mm-hmm.
And go ahead.
So quick question though. So it's like, it's leading into that. So it's like when your body started breaking down and being told by the doctors, like, what did it feel like to hear the words like degenerative, lifelong, multiple joint replacement? Because these are the things that a lot of people place trust in doctors, and they should. But there's also alternatives. In
the ER, I think
not everybody's the same. Yeah, like there's different levels of doctors and everything, and we hear all the horror stories, we hear all the great stories. But with your journey, so hearing all of that, and somebody hearing the same thing either now or they heard it in the past, and they still want to fix themselves and put themselves on a better journey. So what was it like hearing that?
So, as we mentioned before, I've had multiple surgeries. I've had 5 shoulder surgeries, and really only the first one, there was real damage. The rest was just, I'm getting fibrosis and bad collagen and, junk in my shoulders. And so when I asked the surgeon, and I honestly believe that most doctors and most surgeons are well-intentioned, they're just going through an education system that doesn't prioritize healing over treating. So the doctor, Rothman Institute said that your muscles are tangled. I was like, what's going on? What's wrong with me? When he got in there and, he did my final 2 surgeries, because your muscles are tangled. And so conceptually, I'm just thinking now, how do I untangle muscles? This is way before any of this journey even started, but I would lay in bed thinking of like peeling my skin back, just pulling my muscles back, in order.
Yeah.
And
what was the tangled reference to?
Right.
Yeah.
And then so when there's a top surgeon, like it's the leader in joint replacement surgery in America. So, you have to take that for, okay, he's got to know something that I don't know. But really, what's really going on, so you have trillions of muscle fibers, right? Every single muscle fiber is wrapped in collagen, right? Every single one. So you've got little tiny hairs all wrapped in collagen. So once again, that collagen has to be built correctly or it's going to get all stuck together. And all your muscle fibers are going to get stuck together. And in your fascia, really, and that's mainly made up of collagen, is where all the pain receptors are, right? So the pain receptors and the collagen are very closely linked to one another, really the fascia, which is mainly collagen. So when people say I have, knee pain or I have shoulder pain, well, if you look at the body, the muscles, it's where all the connective tissue is. That's the collagen, that's the fascia. And when that starts going bad, you start getting inflammation in there. And then you start having things where you just can't move those areas. And if you look at how the skeleton actually works, it does not do anything. It just hangs like a Venetian blind. Right? Nothing's fitting up into place. It's just kind of hanging there. So when all this tissue around this joint gets impaired, well, now it's off, right? Or now you can't move it because there's so much bad muscle here. It's like a door jamb, not allowing you to get past the spot. So, so let me just break this down. Inflammation, bad collagen, glycation, biofilms, oxidative stress, and oxalates, malnutrition, and, poor hydration. Those are the tenets of chronic pain. If you know that those are the enemies, my assumption would be 70% of people, if they would do something like this, because there are these outliers, but if they would look at something like this and then attack those, whether it's through my supplement or go on my website, buy the supplements yourself and, make your own concoction, they'll start seeing improvements very, very quickly, because the enzymes in my supplement actively go in and start breaking these things down. The antioxidants in my supplement are stabilizing those free radicals, right? Those free radicals, this oxidative stress, that's damaging tissue. The essential amino acids in there are going to rebuild and repair healthy muscles, or help the body rebuild and repair healthy muscles. Also a ton of neurocognitive benefits as well. So yeah, and then drink good water. Like, I think it's really important to drink good water as well. And I'm so far off topic wherever we started, but yeah,
No,
get me back on
it's
board
all
here.
good. No, it's all good. It's so doing all of this, and that's the thing. People need to realize that's the other half of the coin. Is if I'm feeling a certain way that's putting me down a road that's destroying my body, or to the beginning parts of it, and you really need to understand and work with like a doctor, nutritionist, specialist, everything you need to do to say, hey, okay, what's the other side of this? Like you said, there's no magic pill. There's no
Yeah.
magic bullet. Nothing. It's the work that you do in understanding your body. If you don't listen to your body and also heal your mind and whatever traumas you've been through, it's like none of this is gonna work. It's a multi-pronged. I wouldn't say attack, but
It is.
it's
It
just
really is. Because if you
it
look at my
can be.
method, there's so many different things you have to do to
Exactly.
achieve
So
results.
and it can be, so if you're in if you're getting attacked, then you have to have that focus to be like, okay, no, I'm gonna fight back.
Yeah.
So it's a multi-pronged fight for your health. And like you said, like, and me too as well, I'm still doing my best to manage my Crohn's disease, which is what I have. I had it since I was 18, and you get a heightened, if you don't want to be in that position of, beating yourself down and, oh my God, I have something or whatever. And then you get to the point of like, okay, so I'm going to get to what am I going to do better?
What's been working for you?
For me, it's, I've been getting a lot into the fasting, which I was going to have a question about that in between what I'm going to ask you, because my wife and I did a great 3-day fast that a friend of ours, which I've interviewed, her name was Jessica. She was the one. It was my divorce episode, and now she's doing a lot of health coaching things. And she's getting the bug, and she's starting. So she's like, I want you guys to join in and do a 3-day fast.
Mm-hmm.
So we did a 3-day fast, and I know there's different ones. It's not just, we had like vegetable smoothies, teas.
So let me ask you a question real quick.
What's
there.
up?
This is where things get wild. What was in the vegetable smoothie?
It was just because my wife was doing it, but all greens.
Spinach?
Celery, no spinach.
Okay.
There wasn't any spinach. It was a lot of, my wife was the one spearheading that. I'm not even gonna, but I know there was a lot of celery, a lot of light greens, nothing too crazy. We had the teas, and definitely stayed away from the sugar, the basic, stuff that always demolishes everybody, sugar, carbs, and everything else.
Yeah.
And I actually lost 10 pounds.
Yeah.
I lost 10 pounds. I was adhering to it. I would be the one that would always probably break first. My wife, she's a trooper. She would go through it. So you know what? So fuck it. I'm gonna drive by the fast food spot. I'm not gonna be tempted. And here was the most important part, was that when I felt the urge to just F, and I need something crunchy. I need something whatever. I call my wife. If you don't have anybody that you can depend on, find somebody or hire somebody or whatever. And she was kind of like the saving grace. So like, look, you could do it. You could do it. She would send me love deposits. She's like, look, I know it's hard for you. I know it's really hard for you. You can do it. Keep on track with it. And that support is like the unseen push to kind of keep going at it, when some people are like, I'm on day 2 and I just need some fried chicken or something, or a cookie.
So I'm in a WhatsApp group with a bunch of buddies, a couple ex-pro athletes, stuff like that. And we're in a fasting group where we go Monday to Wednesday almost every week. Nice. And we're in there, getting each other. Do you have a fasting app? Do you use an app for fasting?
I'll be honest with you. I do have one, but I don't use it. Now, when you do the fasting with your friends, what is it just only liquids? Like, what do you do?
Everybody's a little different. I know some of the guys are different. It's just, we're really there for motivation. When I do my fasts, so my longest fast was 5 days, because that guy from that Thor guy did one on Netflix. So I was like, I'm going to make sure I don't let him beat me. But, so I'll do it just water. I hate coffee. Like, I'm not a coffee drinker at all. It really makes my stomach messed up. I'll do, a little sip of bone broth here and there. You're allowed to have a
Love bone
little bit of
broth.
bone
Yeah.
broth, which is really great for building healthy collagen, by the way. And sometimes I'll do it with just, this sounds like a promotion, but sometimes I'll do it with just flexibility fuel, right? Even though
Okay.
it's not, I'm not getting any benefits of, the fat burning, getting into, my brain's not working right now.
Ketosis.
Ketosis, yeah. But I think what it's doing is it's quieting down all the noise to let flexibility fuel really get into my bloodstream and really start working on breaking some of this stuff. But I wanted to ask about the smoothie. So why did you decide no spinach? Because spinach is one of the things that messed me up, and that's why I was curious.
Well, I can't, and that's one of the reasons why, like, I can look it up and see, but I don't recall that being part of. I know there was kale in it.
Yeah.
Kale, celery, I think maybe cucumbers, but I don't want to make mention of something where I'm not really sure which one it is, but it's more for the fiber.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, with my body, what I have an issue with is nutrients absorption.
Yeah.
So because of what I'm going through, everything's like, it's with the inflammation as well. But with doing the fasting, it kind of tackles the inflammation as well, or at least it draws that back. And I find a benefit to that. I have to get in my groove with doing a fasting like that. What I've did start doing was I do my best, and I've been pretty much on top of it, is eliminating dinner. Like, I would have breakfast, light breakfast, light lunch, or at least a nice sturdy lunch. And then from lunch on, it's liquids or just water until breakfast the next day.
So I've got an interesting spreadsheet that I created that, let me go to oxalates real quick. So in case anybody's listening, because I think it's really important for people to know about this, one of the treatments I tried to do early on was, which made things much, much, much worse, was juicing vegetables, and spinach and beets being one of them. And I also switched to almond milk. So in spinach and beets and almonds is a little molecule called oxalic acid. So oxalic acid is a nanoparticle. So if it's not bound to anything in the gut, it will leak out through your gut lining. And so when you eat spinach, you're not really breaking it down that much. But when you juice spinach, you're just unleashing all this oxalic acid, inviting it to leak out through your gut. And then it starts building kidney stones all throughout your internally that are as hard as diamonds, right? They call them diamond dust. A lot of women have to get hysterectomies because of these. And the doctors tell them there's nothing you can do but surgery, but there's a really simple lemonade cleanse you can do that draws them out of your body. And if you look on my Instagram, which is Undu Method, you'll see in one of my pictures, I have a rock coming out of my chest. Like, that's literally was like a pumice stone that came out. It took 2 weeks for it to finally pass, just like a kidney stone would. And it was painful, like a razor blade. And when it finally came out, I was like, oh my God, it was the hardest thing. So I had these things everywhere. When I did my first cleanse, I have to thank Sally Norton for this. She's the queen of oxalates. When I did my first cleanse, it felt like I laid on the beach. I had so many of them come out all throughout my shoulders and through my chest and my stomach. But you could feel then your muscles were twitching, meaning they're kind of coming back to life. They're getting oxygen delivered back into the muscles. And I felt like a very big step forward in my process. But so that's about the oxalates. But then, so when I looked, I wanted to figure out what the most nutritious diet would be. Like, how could you create the most nutritious diet? So I put categories, right? Your animals, your fish, shellfish, in case you're kosher, legumes, nuts, whatever, and vegetables and fruits. And so when you look at what you need, the 90 essentials, what you need, and this spreadsheet's on my website or on my with me. I'll talk about that later. But anyway, it shows you that you're mainly of your 90 ingredients that you need. If you really focus on the micronutrients, and then you look at how deficient we are in our micronutrients because of the foods that we're eating do not contain them. And it's really in your red meats, right? Your meats are where you're going to get most of your bioavailable micronutrients. So what you said is you have a tough time absorbing nutrients. Well, you can't get nutrients out of plants. You can, but you can't, right? The body wants, first off, you have to have perfect gut health in order to make the conversion. Someone like you who's looking to lose weight, who's looking to get healthier, who's looking to have good nutrient absorption, I eat a lot of organ meats. I'm a big liver guy, big kidney guy. I don't eat them as meals. They're supplements. Talk about you don't eat dinner. Like, I'll eat lunch. I'll just make a little piece of liver, ketchup and salt, eat it real quick. You have 1,000 percentages of certain vitamin Bs and things like that. All the things you need for fat metabolism and proper methylation, making sure that your body's working, doing the proper things that it should do. And if you're not methylating properly, especially, I'll give you a story about DNA and B12, and we can talk about what we talked about before. But so when I looked at my DNA, which is one of the services I offer, both of my vitamin D receptors are polymorphisms, meaning that they're working at like 30%, right? So anything, vitamin D in my body, I can only metabolize 30% of it or utilize 30% of it. So then you look further down, I've got these two MTR genes. Both parents gave me a bad gene. This recycles homocysteine, which is a toxin, which is very closely linked to depression, right? So it recycles this into methionine, an essential amino acid, which is going to help dopamine and regulation, neurotransmitters and things like that. This gene, and I went vegan during this time. It's winter time, so no vitamin D, which metabolizes homocysteine, no B12 to help this conversion happen, started getting depression. And now I'm like, oh my God, like, what is this? Like, I never experienced depression before. And I was like,
that seasonal depression that
I would get that, like,
sort of,
depression to where, like, I'm not motivated, which I still get a lot, and I got to be very careful with that. It's where I was having crazy thoughts. Very, like, I'm like, it's not worth it anymore. What am I, I'm like, and I was aware enough. I'm like, where'd that thought come from? Like, what is that? And I came in and I told, my partner, my kid's mom, I said, hey, I'm having these weird feelings, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, well, you did go vegan. I was like, oh, does veganism cause depression? And I was like, holy shit, like, this is like, it's not the way to go. It's like, you need to get your nutrients out of your food as best you can. If you have any special circumstances, you want to supplement after that, right? But you want to try getting out of food because you want to have a special relationship with food, right? It shouldn't just be fast food. You should be there preparing it, making a meal, doing it with love. You're putting that in the bodies of yourself and the people that you care for the most. And most people have a really bad relationship with food. And sometimes I do too. I mean, I'm like a heroin addict with food. It's like, I'll go good, and then I'm 3 days worth of blizzards at Dairy Queen. It's just like, and then I feel like crap. I'm like, why'd I do that to myself? Because you feel so good, and then then you mess yourself up. You damage yourself more.
Oh no, I've been a victim of that, eating my feelings. Yeah.
And there's some other interesting places where pain lies. So let's go back biblically, right? So we talked about how some of this ties in. So when I was a child, the two passages in the Bible where I was convinced that no God would make up rules like this because they're so arbitrary. I mean, I stuck with those my whole agnostic way since I was a little kid. So it was don't eat pork, don't eat swine for it's unclean, right? And don't mix linen and wool. I thought, what two arbitrary rules? Why would any God who was really a God make up these rules? So massive implications in chronic pain, both of them. So there's a thing called glycation, and it's when a sugar molecule and a fat molecule or a sugar molecule and a protein come together and creates this sticky sort of film. Like when you barbecue chicken, you see that glaze of kind of stickiness. That's glycation. So when we eat fast foods, when we eat from an air fryer, we're glycating the food, eating it, putting it in our body. Your body can put up with 15,000 events per day, we're going to call them, right? Advanced glycation end products. It's the garbage left behind. Your body can deal with 15,000 of these events. One strip of bacon is 30,000, right? So if you have 3 strips of bacon, you're at 90,000. Let's say you're on some sort of keto-friendly diet and you're just wolfing down bacon, where you're causing this reaction inside your body that's basically kind of sizzling up your muscles and sticking them all together and hardening them up, causing bad tissue. Now, when you mix linen and wool, this is an interesting thing. So this is bamboo. I wear linen and wool and organic cotton. Our body has a frequency. Everything is energy. Everything has frequency. Everything has energy. So our body is like 85 plus hertz. Polyester clothes are 15, right? So because they're a lower frequency than our body is donating an electron to the fabric. Every time it donates an electron, which is constantly, It's causing glycation, which is the thing we talked about before with swine, and oxidative stress, meaning it's an unpaired electron. Now you have a free radical in your body. It's causing all this damage. And so that's why earthing, sleeping on a grounding blanket, things like that are really good for you. Humming creates nitric oxide to help break down some of that stuff. But there's some really important ways to get back in touch with nature, right? To heal yourself, especially the grounding piece. It's free. Grounding and breathing, right? Those are the two free ones. I mean, I do oxygen therapy. I do, acupuncture, things like that. There's a lot of things that cost money, but there's also a lot of things that are just completely free that have massive healing qualities in your body. Like, for example, when you breathe through your nose, your body is going to take L-arginine, which is an amino acid, convert it to nitric oxide, which prevents clot formation, which is preventing those fibrins, right? I don't breathe through my nose well. Right. And I remember very young, a doctor said this to me as well. Do you breathe through your mouth or through your nose? And I was like, why would he ask me that? And I've thought about it ever since. And so now it turns out I don't breathe through my nose very well. And I'm getting all this inflammation in my body. My body can't cope with it unless I'm intentional about breathing through my nose. So when you read the studies on that, and then you read, hey, Dan says breathe through your nose. Here's some studies. Maybe I should start doing that more, being aware of it. The other thing is we're just breathing deeply enough and moving blood around deeply enough to use the muscles we're using right now, which are hard. I'm Italian, so I'm using all these muscles. So, but you know what I mean? We're just sitting around all day and we're not breathing deeply enough blood around and the nutrients to kind of repair the body. Yeah.
No, and that's great. I go to sleep. I use the nose strips, and it does help because, I feel a little bit of inflammation in my nasal cavity, and and then my wife was like, yeah, you need to buy more of those because you don't snore. And, and then I wake up refreshed because, I'm breathing in and just taking deep breaths. And because she would say, she's like, you take in a lot of oxygen when you sleep. And if you're breathing through your mouth, you start snoring, but then you use the nose strips. And she's like, I watch you sleep. And she's like, she's taking it all in. And she's just like, you look more relaxed. And I'm like, no, I wake up, I'm like, oh shit, like I had a good night's sleep.
Have you tried the intake ones, the ones where you put the two little things here, and so it's kind of
I saw those. I can't
those
are better.
You how much better that is. Yeah. The only problem is you got to make sure you're not sweating at night. Like people in Florida definitely can't use these things because it just comes off. Yeah. I got kind of a greasy nose anyway, but the moment I put it on my body, I'm just like, I'm 10 years younger, like immediately.
Yeah.
I did a video
so
on my
different.
Instagram with my brother trying it about a month or two ago.
Because I take a shower. I make sure I wash my face. I make sure and I'm getting better at it, which is another standout thing mentally. It's like, self-care. It's like all of these things line up, everything that you said, and to do and to be aware. It's like when you focus on that self-care portion of you, like, look, I matter. I'm putting myself first. I need to do all of these things, listening to my body and listening to, someone saying, look, these are all the things that are happening in your body. And you're speaking from experience. Yeah. So it's like self-care is like the most important. It's basic, but it's the most important thing.
The problem is there's so many angles of what self-care really looks like that you don't know which one to follow. I mean, like I thought juicing was going to heal the lymphatic issue that I had, and it felt good for a couple of days. So that's why I just dug into it. And then there's been documentaries and stuff. Juicing is great. And I, wonder how many people are still doing spinach smoothies and don't realize that they're just dumping oxalate crystals or it's creating oxalate crystals in the body. That's going to lead to, these things, one, they tear up your muscles. They depolarize the mitochondria. When it gets into your cell, it turns it into a bone-producing cell. It steals hyaluronic acid away from the tissues, and hyaluronic acid holds on to water. So in my supplement is hyaluronic acid. It holds on to 8,000 times its weight in water. So now when you're talking about needing those collagen fibers, those muscle fibers to move smoothly, you have to have water. You have to be properly hydrated for that to happen.
So that's why they put it in those face creams to make yourself look and feel hydrated.
That's what it sounds like. Yeah. When I put it on, I ran out. But when I put it on, if I look, I get a little bit, it doesn't look as sunken in my eyes. But yeah.
No, when you said the only way I could serve my family was to fix it.
Yeah.
And what you were going through, what did those first attempts, because we always know that we always have the first and second and third and fifth and God knows how many attempts.
Yeah.
Like those attempts at fixing it, what did it feel like, and what were your discouraging points that you've gotten past?
So I never get discouraged. Insanely persistent.
For those that do?
Was that?
For those that do, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I played in the NFL with playing 1 year of high school and less than 8 games my senior year. I knew I was going to play in the NFL. I started this energy brokerage. It became the fastest growing company in Philadelphia, like a couple years, in the top, whatever. I had no experience in energy. And, with this, it was just like you said, people were telling you there's nothing you can do. And actually, one of the people who told me there was nothing you can do now buys my product all the time. And he recommends it to his personal training clients. And he has a degree in sports science. He's a wonderful person, but he knew what he knew. And so I was like, no, there's something out here. So initially I thought I'm just going to start pulling my body apart, right? Thinking that's going to do it, right? I'd gone to chiropractors and, all sorts of nonsense. And then when you realize, and this wasn't until I started using supplementation, this is why it will not work unless you're very intentional with the supplements or foods that you're eating. The bonds that hold collagen together are 7 times stronger than steel. Okay. Your chiropractor is not pushing through that. Okay. I pulled on myself for a year and I'd hear cracking, right? But it's not going anywhere. The fibrin network, it's a mesh. It's not just a stick, right? It's like a mesh of fibrin. It's like a cheap plastic water bottle. It's not coming apart and it's moving like this. And that crunching you hear is that. It's not your joints. It's not some weird gas. It's that viscoelastic polymer, which is the fibrin. And it's crunchy. The only way to break it down is cleaving the chemical bond. And that's the whole premise of all my thing is like this fibrin is held together by these 4 chemical bonds. Which supplements break down these chemical bonds the best? And you can go find studies and all sorts of stuff. And now that AI is around, it's even faster. But before AI was around, this is how I developed this. And so, for a fibrin, pineapple powder. And that's one of the angels put that one in my brain. So I'm at an event with my energy brokerage. Shell has us at a golf outing. Everyone got food poisoning from breakfast. And then that night we're all throwing up and, whatever. And so the next morning I'm like, gosh, I wonder how everyone got food poisoning. So 1, I had to qualify for the event. 2, we all had to get food poisoning. 3, they had to serve something to give us food poisoning. And I had to think as the first thing, I was like, I wonder if it was the pineapple, right? Why did I think it was the pineapple? I have no idea. It was it made the least sense, to be honest with you. And I said, but something told me to say, pineapple contains bromelain. And I was like, at first I was just focused on collagen and biofilms and some other things. I didn't even really know about inflammation and fibrins at this point. So bromelain, when you look it up, is used as a commercial meat tenderizer to get rid of fibrosis in farm animals. I was like, I had a tear come out of my eye. I was like, holy cow. And so interesting thing, I start adding it. So I don't know if you can tell, but I've got all these spice racks here.
Yeah.
They're supplements. I'm microdosing like a bunch. And so when I was starting out, I'm just reading this, and I start making my little concoction of flexibility fuel at home. And I started adding pineapple powder. And once again, start getting all that click, 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 click. Because it's a protease enzymes, which breaks down a protein. So fibrin is a protein. So anyway, a couple weeks later, this is sort of toward the end of COVID, I missed probably 2 dentist appointments because of COVID restrictions and things like that. And so I don't have any cavities. I'm 53. I've got no cavities. My father has no teeth in his front up top. Ever since he was a kid, he's had poor teeth health. So I'm very aware of my teeth. And so I'm getting this thing. I thought, oh my God, my tooth is falling apart. And so I was like, what the heck is this? And so it was a piece of plaque, a big piece of plaque. I was like, oh, that's gross. So I go to the dentist the next day and she's like, oh yeah, $1,000 cleaning. I'm like, $1,000? It's 3 days before Christmas. It's probably 3 years ago today.
Right.
So I was like, he goes, yeah, it can get really bad and this, that. And of course, I'm like this advocate for my own health and I'm feeling like such a sucker. I'm like, okay, go ahead. And I said, wait a minute, isn't there like something you can spray on my mouth first to break it down and I can come back in a few days? Because I'm now at this point worried about the pain. And she goes, nope, nothing you can do. I was like, wait a minute. Dentist did this to me before though. Like I know that there's something. So then I start thinking, wait a minute, maybe. So I type in NIH dental plaque proteolytic enzymes, or whatever the search was. Like 30 studies showed that that's what broke down the plaque in my mouth, released that. And so I just got the regular cleaning and my teeth are fine. But yeah, that was like just one of the ways that I fell forward. Like if we didn't get sick, we may not even be talking here, you know? And, but yeah, the proteolytic enzymes breaks down the fibrin. The B propolis helps resynthesize the collagen. B propolis is also an antiviral, antifungal, antiseptic, anti-cancer, antiherpetic benefits. So the B's make it, right? It's not like B, it's B propolis. Alpha lipoic acid is a master antioxidant, so it's going to pair those free radicals. It also helps recycle other antioxidants like vitamin C. PEA, so when you talk about inflammation, it's a cycle. The first event is the cytokine release. PEA mediates that cytokine release. So for someone that has visceral fat, like I had a lot of visceral fat, right? If you have visceral fat, you're constantly in a cytokine release.
And that's
right?
the fat connected to the organs, right?
That's
if I recall.
Internal. Yeah. So you're constantly, and that's the beginning of inflammation, right? So carrying extra weight, viscerally is going to cause cytokines, which is going to cause the fibrin, which is going to cause the, pain. So then there's rutin, which is an anti-glycation, R-U-T-I-N. It breaks down the glycation. So it's adding an electron to that thing, causing it to rupture. Now the body can break it down. Until it's ruptured, the body has a really tough time breaking these things down. So that's why, like I said, the freest thing you can do is fast. It's actually a net positive for you financially.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's so breaking down the pain makers is what I teach people, showing them the science behind it on why these things actually break down these pain makers. It's the most obvious things. Is this going to work for everybody? The supplement or the method, not everybody. Most people aren't going to stick with it because most people are, they're in pain. They're not as motivated. Some people just give up, or they're not getting results quick enough, or they're just too deep into whatever they're doing. But the supplement itself, taking that on its own, most people, and this is, the majority of people within a couple weeks are sending me messages like, holy cow. And a lot of people are within a day because these are active enzymes. So within the first day, it's possible that one of these enzymes in here is going to go break down some fibrosis that's been binding you together somewhere. And you're going to have this moment of like, wow, because your body, the way that pain works is you have all these pain receptors everywhere, mostly in your fascia, but your brain's only going to categorize and keep a hold of a couple of them. So when one of them goes away, you're going to notice a new pain because your brain can now hold on to that pain. But when that one goes away, that moment of relief in your brain is just like the clouds have opened, the angels are singing. What is this feeling? It's pretty incredible. I had a guy, he's been 11 years, he's been on opioids. And once again, this is anecdotal. I'm not promoting this as something Flexibility Fuel does, but he has been on opioids for 11 years due to surgeries. This is like a good guy. It's not like this guy gets up dressed every morning, he's well shaped, the whole deal, but he's had so many surgeries, which once again, I think most orthopedic surgeries are probably not necessary. And he started taking the supplement and he quit cold turkey. He says that I have the same pain level as being on the medication, but without the side effects. But the thing is that what's causing the pain, the supplement is helping the body break down. So It's doing a couple different things, right? So doing a bunch of different things, but yeah.
No, and that's great. Now, you've built the Undu method out of your own trial and error. Share with us some interesting core principles that make it different from the usual manage your pain approach, but of course, without giving away the secret sauce.
Yeah, no, I don't even mind giving away secrets. I'm gonna, because this has been my challenge, is to get the people in the chronic pain community to buy it. I've gotten more interest from like professional sports teams and college sports teams use as a soft tissue repair, injury avoidance, things like that. The problem, literally, I have it on this platform called with.me /Undu method is where the program sits. And at first I was like, I'm going to sell for $196 and give you a free bottle of Flexibility Fuel. I thought that was like very accessible for 10 years of my grief, and all the research and the nonsense that I had to give to my family during this time. And then I was like, people like, you're a scammer, you should give it away for free, And I was like, all right, well, I know $196 is a lot for people who may not be working. So What if I just give it away for $13 a month? You can literally get through it in a day, right? And maybe you want to, take a month or 2 months or 3 months to get through it, but then it becomes like really, really accessible. But if you buy it, then you have it forever. But it'll give you some core principles. But what I really encourage people to do is honestly just try the supplement to see if that works for you. And if it does, then I'm very certain you're going to get much more benefit from the whole process, because I can't claim to know everything, but I'm filling a large hole here that is missed by like everybody that I see. Like anyone that I'm hearing talk about pain management and stuff like that, they're talking about exercising through it, which is just, it's not going to work. Like there's no way to exercise through it. You know, especially for older people. 10 years ago when all this started, I'm 53 now. I'm like in my sort of late 30s. Guys, 15 years now. Jeez. So I'm in like my late 30s and I'm yanking on things to try to pull this stuff apart. It's going nowhere. And even if it does crack, the next day it's right back to that bad spot. And it wasn't until getting my diet right, hydrating properly, doing my grounding, doing my breathing. I call it meditation or breathing. Another big thing that is really important that is a little inaccessible by people is dry needling, acupuncture. Because what happens is so you've got all those muscle fibers that are wrapped in collagen. All these muscle fibers are wrapped in another layer of collagen called the paramecium. So you've got the endomecium, paramecium, and then an epimecium that wraps a whole bunch of these things. It's all collagen. So when that collagen gets so thick, you're not getting blood flow in there. So what happens, and your collagen is electric, right? It literally is a battery. So when you get a needle in there and you open up some space for blood to get in there and allowing for nutrient delivery, now you can start unwinding some of those places. But I'd say that's probably the hardest thing that anyone would have to do in this whole process is go get acupuncture. I mean, everything else is pretty easy. There's no heavy lifting. It's all stretching, it's movement, it's breathing, it's being kind to yourself, eating properly, but all with the intention of here are the pain makers. These are the offenders. How do we get rid of these things, right? I don't know if that was the answer to your question.
It's all good. I mean,
Yeah.
I like the acupressure. I've done it a few times and I've had a positive experience with it. Anything memorable, I got to kind of think back, but I like that. Did cupping once. That was pretty okay. But yeah, and then what do you feel about those like going to like the massage route and things like that? Does it have to be regular or like a kind of sports thing or?
So that's another thing where it gets expensive. So I haven't had a massage in a long time, and I decided to get one recently. It was pretty great, to be honest with you. I mean, I feel like a lot of things happen that normally don't happen. So for somebody that would be on a budget, I foam roll. Like I foam roll almost every day. So you start with the softer one, work your way up to a harder one. But the problem is, once again, when you're working with that, your expectation has to be is I'm not going to break muster this stuff down. You might help break down the new stuff that hasn't set in yet. Those chemical bonds haven't set in yet, and maybe elongate some of that stuff, because when collagen lays down, it pulls 200% tighter. So it's ratcheting you down every time there's collagen response. So it really is important. The biggest mistake you can make is to do it without the supplementation or the diet. If you can't afford the supplements, the foods are all listed there. You want proteolytic enzymes, pineapple powder. Eat a lot of pineapple, papaya. If you want nattokinase enzymes, you can get this supplement food called natto, which is super effective. Honey has enzymes in it. I mean, there's just a lot of foods that I have listed that if you can't afford it, but you're not going to go anywhere just doing massage. Like it's nice and it helps and it might move some of this interstitial fluid.
It's part of that like kind of multi-pronged approach, and then you see what you can incorporate or take out and things like that. You wanted to touch on the genetic part.
Yeah. So, I listened to one of your podcasts before, and it's really important, I think, to look at genetics. I mean, MTHFR is, Gary Brecka talks about this a lot. It's something that I suffer with. Like 44% of the population has this genetic polymorphism. Are you familiar with methylation or genetic polymorphism or anything? I can real quickly. Break it down for the audience, right? So mom and dad have two sets of genes from both their parents, right? One parent gave them, so they're going to give you one of these, right? Mom can have a good one and dad can have a good one and a bad one and a bad one. They can give you a combination of any of it. That's why genetics is sort of a thing, but it's not really, because it's not so predictable. So, and it's very common. So MTHFR basically makes the whole system work. If you have a double polymorphism on MTHFR, so now the gentleman that I listened to before said there's no genetic markers. Well, a double polymorphism often misdiagnoses as bipolarism, right? And I've had the mood swings where I'm like, where did that come from? When I was really pushing down on these genes. If you support these genes, like with folate, right, and not folic acid, and this is where I think a lot of the mental health problems in America are coming from, is folic acid. So, and the reason why is it's sprayed on all of our food. And if you ask AI, is folic acid a neurotoxin? No, but at high doses, it acts like one. And you're like, well, what's a high dose? And like you find out for a kid, it's like a bowl of spaghetti and maybe a donut. You know what I mean? And then he's like in the toxic level. And then what that gene does is it makes a protein that goes around the mast cell. You know, mast cells give off histamine. That starts your fight or flight process, right? So when you have folic acid and you have this polymorphism, you cannot convert the synthetic version into the usable version, right? But now that folic acid is sitting on the folate receptor, folate can't sit on this folate receptor now. So now this mast cell activation syndrome that people are having, all this anxiety and depression because histamine, which is that molecule that causes anxiety, fight or flight, downstream of that is homocysteine, which is the depression molecule. Right. So now we're eating all this bread and all this, cookies and all this junk. And then we're getting anxious and depressed. And we're wondering, oh, it's just life. But life isn't that hard. You know what I mean? Like when you get that stuff out of your diet and things settle down, you're like, oh, this is kind of simple, to be honest with you.
Or you're torturing yourself after the fact, like you ate like a huge sandwich or just a bowl of pasta or something like that. And you're like, oh my God, I feel like crap.
Yeah.
So is that, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the feeling like crap thing is probably a lot of the glyphosate in there. I think it's more down a few hours later, maybe the next day, you're really starting to feel this. It's an interesting thing. The reason why they spray our entire grain supply with folic acid is to get rid of neural tube defects and to reduce neural tube defects in pregnant women. So you're like, all right, well, you kind of just leave it alone at that usually, right? You're like, well, we don't want neural tube defects. And you're like, well, how many women during pregnancy encounter neural tube defects? And it's like 0.074%. Right. I have one. It's called spina bifida coulter. At least I was diagnosed with it. It might have been another misdiagnosis. But I played in the NFL and I'm a sprinter and all this kind of stuff. So it's not that big a deal that affects so many people that we have to spray it for every man, woman, and child in America to eat. If you're a lady of pregnant age, just go get a multivitamin with methylfolate in it and you're set. Whatever you want to do, but I don't need to do it. So now you've got this folic acid acts as a neurotoxin in high doses in everyone's food. And we've got all this massive rise in anxiety and depression. And then we wonder, like, where is it coming from? But not only that, folic acid drives fat into lipids or drives lipids into cells, making you fatter, right? And then so the seed oils that we're consuming disallows that fat cell from dividing, or at least there's a study that shows that. So now you've got in almost every health food, folic acid and some seed oil. It's rancid and it's causing you to be fatter, even though it's low calorie, which low calorie means low energy, right? So you're just starving yourself of energy. So I feel like it's sort of when you look at modern medicine, I think the big picture system is sort of designed to keep us unhealthy, but there are good people within the system that, sometimes they escape the matrix, sometimes they don't. But, I don't want you to like blame your doctor for everything. But when I went to my doctor and told him some of the things that I did, like so my lymphatic system wasn't draining for like, I don't know how long, years. And my knees were swollen like softballs. And this was the first advice I ever took. A friend of mine, I was puffy. You can see on my Instagram how big my face was. And my friend was like, what's wrong? And I told her, she said, well, rub some castor oil on your knees. And I was just like, oh God, at this point I wouldn't listen to anybody yet. I thought I knew everything. But she was so intent. It's when I first started foam rolling, I was thinking everyone's got a foam roll. And she's looking at me with the same intensity. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go rub this castor oil on my knees. Now my face was like this. I'm sweaty all the time. I'm going through shoes like crazy. I'm losing my hair. I can barely think, no motivation. I put this castor oil on, leave it on overnight, about a shot's glass worth. Leave it on overnight. My knees that were swollen for 8 months, completely gone away. Like completely overnight. The puffiness in my body is now seemed to have really subsided. and I'm blowing stuff out of my face for 3 days, right? And so now, like as a cleanse, I tell everyone needs to have a healthy lymphatic system. So as a cleanse, the first cleanse I have them do is a lymphatic system cleanse with castor oil, right? And you can go and try that for free. And then the other one is a heavy metal cleanse, right? Which, anyone can do that, but heavy metals, I think, are being sprayed from up above. There's a lot of evidence for that. It's in our foods, it's in our water. And then the other one is an oxalate cleanse. Remember that like thing that came out of my chest? So the whole system starts off with the 3 cleanses, right? And it's not where you can't eat other foods. You can do it just along what you're normally doing. And then we just start looking at each one of the pain makers, right? And like, these are what the pain makers are. These are what's causing them. These are the foods, these are the events, these are the DNA polymorphisms that might be contributing to it. This is how you can support that DNA so it's working more correctly. I have another interesting DNA one if you want to get into that one. So, if you don't have time.
No, I do.
Okay.
I have enough time, as much time as you want. I'm interested in the castor oil thing because I want to start trying different things as well. So with the castor oil, how does one do that? So just to kind of like touch base, and then other people might try the other 2 options that you presented. But for me, like how did you do the castor oil?
Yeah. So the castor oil, so I don't use a microwave anymore to heat anything. Everything's heated, it's stove. So I put about a shot glass worth of castor oil in a pan, heat it up a little bit, right? Because you don't want to get it too hot because you want to thin it out so it can kind of get into your system. I left mine on overnight, but if you have access to a sauna or something like that, you can do it that way. But you want to leave it on pretty much either throughout the day or it's sticky, so you're going to need to wash your bed sheets if you leave it on overnight like I did.
So did you like put it on your knees and wrap up your knees? Or?
No, I just put it on. I didn't wrap anything up. A lot of people say you need to wrap it up, but I put it on my knees. I put it in my groin area where my lymph nodes are and under my armpits, kind of just like on my chest. I mean, a shot glass worth was significant amounts. And I've had other people do it, and they get positive results from as well. Nobody that had what I was going through, but just people in general. The next day I'm blowing my nose for like half the days. Yeah, and here's the other interesting thing is your lymphatic system is connected to your glymphatic system, which is in your head. This science just found this out about 4 or 5 years ago. Your glymphatic system is responsible for hair health. So all of our Black friends, Black sisters, they use castor oil for their hair health. So what was thought to be like an old wives' tale, now we find the science in it, right? And so I think it's really interesting because when I started doing that, my hair was in much worse shape before. Like I got a nice little spot back here, but I was losing hair so rapidly. This just cleaned it up. And you just think about it, the lymph is just garbage. It's just cellular waste. So when your lymphatic system isn't moving quickly, you're just dealing with all this extracellular waste, which is going to cause more inflammation, which is going to cause more oxidative stress and the whole cascade of nonsense. So it's really important to do a lymphatic system cleanse because when you do the oxalate cleanse, you're going to need a healthy lymphatic system to get that stuff out of your body. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And what were you going to mention with the genetics?
The other DNA thing. So there's someone in my family that's been diagnosed with schizophrenia, right? And so I was like, I want to help this person. So I went into their DNA and I looked at their detox panel. And this person smokes a lot, or at least used to, and works for a chemical company spraying chemicals on the lawn. And so I went into the DNA, and on his detox panel, the only double polymorphism was this one gene. I can't remember the name of it, but it was responsible for detoxing carcinogens. So then you look at the studies on this gene. There's a Japanese study that shows men with this double polymorphism exhibit higher rates of schizophrenia. So is it actually schizophrenia, or your body's not able to get rid of carcinogens that are floating through your body constantly, affecting your mental capacity, right? And so I was getting calls from his wife, you got to do something, more medication, more this, more this. I said, send him, you're not feeding him well. Because if you're not getting your micronutrients and you're not methylating correctly, you cannot detox, right? So they're connected. So you have to make sure you're giving yourself these micronutrients. But anyway, came over, good spring water, liver, raw milk. We just hung out for a few, went and grounded, did some breathing. Didn't hear from her and I heard from her 4 or 5 times that winter. And after that, didn't hear from him again. Then it happened again this year. Send them over, did it, and haven't heard from them again, right? And it's literally just you're not giving your body the instructions to do the things to get rid of the junk that we're putting in our body. And sometimes we're putting junk in our body, we don't even realize it's junk. You just take a sip
Yeah.
of water, you're gambling. You don't know where that water's been, like truly, especially
No,
today.
I mean, I live in New York, well, right above New York City, Westchester County, and we don't drink straight from the tap, and we've gone
Yeah,
through so many filters because you would see the difference. Like we have a Brita filter,
yeah,
but I replaced the filter with one that also incorporates magnesium.
yeah,
And but then you see, like, after, like, let's say 2 weeks, it starts filling up slowly. And then she's like, what the hell is going on in these bad filters? I said, no. I said, you see the
so
water
much
that we
junk.
have. And
Yeah,
even then we had our what is it, our hot water heater replaced. And then when he emptied it and he was emptying it, you see these chunks come out. My wife was
yeah,
like, what the hell is that? I'm like, that's the stuff that's in the water that settles, that's getting
yeah,
caught. And then it hit me. I said, that's getting caught in the filter.
yeah,
And that's why you always have to change these things out, because what do you think it's doing with the stuff? It's
yeah.
holding on to it within the filter. And if we don't filter that, we drink straight from the tap, we're drinking that.
Yeah.
So
I
we're
got a
we're
whole
gonna get a whole house filter system go through.
I
Yeah.
did that. Yeah. It's good. I mean, I still filter my water, and I only drink water plain out of glass jars now. And my youngest son, both my sons have very heightened taste and smell. I don't. When he drinks out of the plastic water bottle, he's like, Dad, that upsets my stomach. And we know that there's billions of, floating around chemical particles in these waters, and especially in the really cheap bottles of water. And that's why when I see somebody, Costco and they're buying that cheap water, I want to go give them free advice, but I don't, because I don't want to be that guy. But like, it's literally putting acidic water into your cell. And that cell will never work properly with acidic water inside of it. And not only that, you've got all the microplastics and the PBAs and the PBEs and things like that. And, it's talking, once again, just to talk about that real quickly, is with the synthetic clothing, there's a chemical in there that mimics estrogen. So it causes women to gain weight. So they're wearing all these Lululemon stuff. It's not only putting these BPs, BPAs, all this nonsense in you, but it's causing fat gain. And I'm at the gym and I see all these women, and I'm like, they're working so hard, but for some reason they're just this unnatural thing in the middle is forming. And I didn't grow up with women, didn't always look like that. And I
Yeah.
know these are hard work, and they're always working out. So it's a lot of dangers in the things around us that we don't realize are unhealthy are making us unhealthy. I mean, Wi-Fi, sticking, not these, but the earbuds in our ears. There's a lot. Running a microwave emits a ton of radiation in your house. A lot of stuff that's kind of messing with us and causing little driplets of getting us unhealthy. And until you start sort of undoing it, reversing it, you're
Yeah.
just heading down the same path.
Then when you mention the thing about the water bottles, then it's like I see people, and I tell my friends, I said, don't buy water from because if you probably know the gas station, and they're like, why? I'm like, dude, they don't even leave it under shade. It's in
Yeah,
direct sunlight. I'm like, if they tell you don't drink water that's from a water bottle that's been sitting in your car because of the heat and the direct
yeah,
sunlight, I'm like, they're leaving these things outside. The wood, I get it, because we get like firewood or whatever on the side if we need a quick one, but then they have they have 300 cases like on the corner of the building right outside. I'm like, direct sunlight. I'm like, no.
yeah. No, yeah. I never even thought about that. I really, I still have the bad things I do. You talk about going to the gas stations. Of like 5 Hour Energy is like it's been a crutch for me for a long time, and so but I know it's hurting me, but I also know it's helping me. It's getting me up in the, it's giving me that jolt that I need, because when I say I reversed fibromyalgia, or whatever cured my fibromyalgia and arthritis, so I wouldn't be considered someone with fibromyalgia anymore. I just don't have the pain points in all the places anymore, but it doesn't mean I'm without pain still. But I know, but every day it more and more goes away. But that doesn't come without its side effects. There's always this malaise that happens when you kind of get through a big bunch of stuff that comes apart. Do you think about, like, it's all like scaffolding in your body, all this junk, these pain makers. So you're going to break some of the support beams of the scaffolding. You're going to get a little movement back, but there's still a bunch of junk in there. Right. And it's like, oh, did I hurt myself more? It's like, no, you're just feeling pain differently now. Right. And you just have to know that pain is due to these other pain receptors are being rubbed on now. So, and then eventually that goes away. And then once you stick with it long enough, I don't mean like it's just like you have this epiphany, like, wow, like this is coming apart. This is the first thing. Like a friend of mine who had fibromyalgia, she bought the supplement and I didn't hear from her for 2 weeks. I was like, oh man, like I get really anxious when I don't hear from somebody like right away. Cause usually I get a really quick turnaround time with people and their responses. But she was like, yeah, I didn't feel anything until about 2 weeks. And she wrote something on my Facebook page, on my Undu Method Facebook page, about how it's the first time anything has ever worked for her. I had a buddy who had a knee injury since he's been 12 from a motorcycle accident. This is the first time he's ever had relief from that. And he's 50 something now. So, I hope people try it. Like I really do, because I really want to be able to provide it to people. Because if they don't try it, then,
Exactly.
they're not going to have it available.
And it's true what you said. So it's like if you're providing something that they can put in their bodies and supplement, and their body can use and build and grow and get to the better part of their selves. It takes me back to, I don't know if it's like a little simplistic, but I saw this on the Food Network, and it was this one of those guys who had the show that they go travel and whatever. So he was with this dude in one of the Caribbean islands, and then he's like, why do you have the crabs in a cage or whatever? And he's like, no, we catch the crabs. And he's telling him, no, that there's a lot of junk around. They eat the junk food and everything like that. And then we're supposed to eat these. He's like, what we do is we put them in a cage out in the open, leave a lot of fruit or whatever in there. And he's detoxing the crabs so that he could eat them, because he's like, if I eat, yeah, he's like, if I eat them like this now, as soon as I catch them, he's like, they taste disgusting. They taste disgusting. And they're eating garbage, and if I'm eating them, then I'm eating garbage. So he would basically detox these crabs or whatever the sea animal was, just so he can have a good meal.
Yeah.
And he's like,
that's the tough thing about eating biblically, right? Because that's, that's part of, like, I wanted to find more answers in the Bible because these two things, and that was part of the reason I had this spiritual awakening. But trying to eat biblically or kosher or whatever you want to say, because I know there's benefits to it, like the science is there, but your family hasn't bought into it yet. It's tough. It's tough to do. Even
then, it's like with beef and with cows, if you eat one that's eating nothing but corn and God knows what else they're feeding it.
Yeah.
And even same thing with chickens and the feed. It's like, let them free range, let them eat what they normally eat. I see some people who are catching bugs that are a nuisance in the environment, feeding it, and then like being a little bit more natural with it.
Yeah.
And because if somebody sees Kobe beef, is like, that's not natural beef, that's not, I see them feeding like these huge freaking cows, like beer and everything like that. I'm like, it must taste good, but that's not how it was intended.
Right. So I get my meat, that's, like I said, I have a strong relationship with food now, or at least as best I can. But, I tried the carnivore thing. I realized that wasn't for me. But I do eat a lot of meat. And so I get a delivery. I'm telling you, it's the best, cheapest thing going. It's $138 a month from Wild Pastures. Right. And so then the next month for like $140, I get fish delivered from Wild Alaska. So I'm alternating on this. Now I've got, you've got more boys than me. I've got two. We don't get through this box in a month, right? And that's what I'll spend at dinner with my family on one night. And I've got at least a month's worth of meat in there. So I think it's a really good way to like make sure that you're putting foods in your home that are serving you, and then go be a mess outside of the house, right? Like, that's kind of how I do it. I'm like, all right, I'm going to eat as much good stuff here. My kids always complain that there's no snacks here, and every once in a while there's snacks. But, if we want snacks, we got to go get it just for that moment, right? We're not going to have a bunch of snacks lying around. But we'll go out and I'm going to eat chicken and stuff like that. But the chicken from this place, and I'll talk about that as well, because I think that's another really important piece. It is pasture raised, right? It's out there pecking around, eating worms and bugs and things like that, which it's supposed to eat. So when we eat an organic chicken from the supermarket, even though it's labeled organic, it's still being fed organic grain and corn, which is still inflammatory, right? And it's still got a lot of linoleic acid in it. And then it's that linoleic acid, which is that thing in the seed oils that disallows the fat cells from dividing, right? So that's another, and 30% of the tissue is linoleic acid. So you're eating 30% linoleic acid when you're eating chicken from the store. So I'll go eat chicken wings. We'll go to the bar or whatever, watch the Eagles play, beat the Giants. And,
Thanks.
and I'll eat chicken wings there, obviously, right? Because I don't want to. I was that guy for a little while, and I was annoying myself. So now I'm, like I said, it's like I eat as much good stuff in the home as I can. I've got chicken liver. My friends are hunters. They're going to bring me back the parts of the deer that they're not eating. The heart, the liver, the kidney. I've tried almost everything on the cow. I mean, literally almost. Like I've had bull's penis. A couple months ago, just because it's like I got to eat. It was there on the website, and I'm like, well, let's go.
I mean, minus the penis part. Like, I want to introduce that to my family as well, because it's like my oldest. He's loving how he's loving learning how to move in the kitchen, and I love that because I did the same thing. Yeah. I did the same thing. I grew up with a single parent. And when it comes time to cook for yourself, it's like, okay, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that?
Yeah. How many times did you make Jello for dinner?
Jello? No, we don't do. We used to do it sometimes.
When I was a kid, because my mom was a nurse, and I'd be home alone at 11 years old, and
I started doing more Jello when I first had my kids, and loved that. And then we just got into the Jello shots, which of course is not healthy, but we still did that for parties.
Yeah. But when you're fending for yourself as a younger kid, you didn't know.
It was basic stuff, but then it's like it put me on a road to being self-sufficient, but then I kind of got skewed off because then when I grew up in the South Bronx, and of course
South Bronx,
but it's notorious for like the Texas Roadhouse chicken or this or that, or just those quick. The fast foods are like damaging. Yeah. But the thing is, it's like nobody knew that if you have it for so long and if it's not an immediate impact on it, you're building the bad foundation internally and mentally. And it's like mentally it's the worst because you can switch gears and say, I'm going to do this. But then the second somebody stresses you, like it's a wrap. Like, okay, now I'm online ordering a 4-piece and then with some unhealthy thing for dessert, and all because, okay, somebody says something sideways, and next thing you know, it's like, all right, maybe they're right, and this or that and then you start beating yourself up, and that internal story comes through, and it's like, dude, we have to start learning how to balance that. And I want to help people to be like, get curious about what is triggering all that, because then you're doing all of this to your body, and then someone like you comes in and it's like, look, this is what's happening internally.
Yeah. And I think when you like visualize it and you're like, oh, I'm going to put this into my mouth, this piece of bacon, and it's going to create hardened muscle tissue for me. And I'm like, oh yeah. So like, this is a paintbrush, right? So this is just sugar on it, right? So think of this as your muscle fibers, and it just right? I mean, that's just sugar and water. So when your muscle fibers get hard and they're sitting against these joints, right? And of course, it's going to be painful in that area because that's where all the hardness is happening. But I think it's like when you start visualizing, and I, have a nice visualization of what the pain makers are and what they look like and what they do to your body. With folic acid in me, like that was the one that was probably, of the things I've quit so far, that was probably the hardest one. But I had to come to terms with it. That's the problem, right? Mm-hmm. You had to settle down the noise, and then you're like, I'm going to go grab that thing with folic acid, and all of a sudden you're feeling like crap. You're like, okay, it's definitely that. And the problem with most people is they're putting so many things at a time that they're not listening for that one thing that might be causing the problem, right? And I think that's where fasting is really important, because once you fast and you get into like your second day, past day one, and you get that clarity, and you're like, oh wow, I didn't realize this was possible. I just thought I was anxious and moving at a faster rate of speed, but everything slows down. Everything becomes easier. And then you put something in your mouth and you're like, and then you realize the impact that food is having on your body pretty quickly. And then, you make the mistake a few more times, and then, it's like a lifestyle of bowling with the bumpers on, right? You're just never going to go in the gutter. You're aware you're going to kind of mess up every once in a while, but you're not going to go in the gutters because you've taken the time.
Exactly. And also having that realization of that, if I'm going to do this, like, okay, maybe I can, have that Snickers bar. But if you have that clarity, it'd be like, okay, who's actually reaching for that? Like, who's reaching for that? Is the adult you? Is it that Is it that you that was traumatized and then had a Snickers bar there and ate it and then felt that pleasure of the sugar and everything else and all the crap that they put into there that's supposed to make you feel good. So
Yeah.
when you're hurt and it made you feel good, okay, I just developed a crutch. It's like
Yeah.
showing up to reach that. And once they realize that, it's like, no, that part of me, no, that's the old me. And
How much fruit do you have in your house?
fruit,
Yeah.
we've been upping, like, I mean the basics though, but I always get a pack of on the side I get like avocado. My wife loves getting, we have some bananas, the tangerines, the oranges, the apples.
Yeah.
I do want to get a more variety, but the way, and this it
So for
sounds like an
chronic pain,
excuse, but
yeah.
it's for, well, what I was saying is that, a lot of people would probably do the same. Would probably do the same thing I would do and say, well, because, in the environment I live in, it's not conducive to having all of that. And then, all that type of thing. We get a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff goes bad.
Yeah.
And, no, that's not an excuse. We can do things to mitigate that. But it's
Yeah.
like, well, what's the best fruit to have in the house?
Yeah. So for me, there's a handful of fruits that I think, they're staples in my house. I mean, one, the pineapple, because it's got those enzymes in it, right? And the enzyme is mostly in the stem, but it's also in the tissue,
Yeah, no, I love pineapple. Yeah.
yeah. Watermelon, because watermelon contains L-citrulline, which L-citrulline converts to L-arginine. And then when you breathe through your nose, L-arginine becomes nitric oxide, which improves blood flow and breaks down those clots, right? So it's functional. Blueberries, right? Blueberries, because they're an antioxidant. When you've got these free radicals from the inflammation and oxidative stress, you're going to want to pair those. So blueberries are a good one for that. Apples, the skin of the apple is I think it's a flavonoid or polyflavonoid, something. It's basically helps break down glycation, right? So apple a day keeps the doctor away. So those, and then oranges because of the vitamin C. Those are the fruits that I have in my house most often. Every once in a while, grapes. They're good for hydration. I don't know that there's much more benefit with grapes. Actually, the skin of the grape is supposed to be pretty good. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I use. So when I talk about, like, when you talk about, oh, I want to go eat something, I want to go make a bad decision, I always go make the good decision first and see if the bad decision is still there. If the bad decision is still there, I'm probably going to do it. But at least I made the good decision. And I like to hard boil a lot of eggs. So the hard boiled eggs are sitting around. So
My
like,
wife
when
loves
I
that. Yeah.
eat something, I'm just like, okay, I'm going to eat this and I'm going to see if I've satisfied that thing. Because usually what hunger is, and not stress eating hunger, but just hunger itself, is your body saying I'm deficient in something. So we just put the first thing in our mouth and we feel satisfied. But you haven't satisfied what your brain is telling you. You've satisfied another piece of you. So you're still hungry for those nutrients. And so when you do something like eat liver or incorporate liver into your diet, even just a little bit every couple days, every third or fourth day, you're going to have so much bioavailable nutrition in that liver that messaging isn't going to come across as much, right? That's saying I need something, right? Because it's already been satiated, right? So,
Okay.
yeah. And then water, man. Drink lots of water.
Always.
Yeah.
What have you learned about the link? Now, there are a lot of people that listen to this and they hear all the technical stuff. And like they get it. Like it's okay to do the research. Give yourself some time, give yourself some grace and everything. But even if they can't really connect with the details, for someone who wakes up in pain every day and has started to get used to it, what is some advice they can start with right now to begin their journey? What's the basic first step to a journey that probably will never end, but in a good way?
Yeah, I hope that it does end for most people, because I know, like, my goal is complete flexibility.
Well, the end to the pain, absolutely, definitely.
Yeah,
But to keep
yeah.
this up,
To
it's
keep
like
it
that.
going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it becomes, so you have to adopt it as your hobby.
Good
Health
point.
is now your hobby, right? It's
Good
like
point.
whatever your hobby used to be, just make health your hobby. Use AI. Ask questions to AI. What is this supplement good for? What does it do? Dig deep. Keep going deeper with it. Okay, well, it creates this problem in the body. Well, what chemical bonds hold that problem together? Like, how do you break those chemical bonds? And you just start asking these questions, and it's like, seek and ye shall find. ask and you will receive. And it's just
You,
like, if you're
you,
not
you know
looking.
what that reminds me of? And I'm sorry to cut you off, but I do want you to continue. But that
Yeah, yeah.
reminds me when people used to tell me once smartphones became prevalent, they're like, I got a dumb, because I'm in IT and everything. They're like, I got a dumb question. I'm like, I look at their hand. I'm like, well, you have a smartphone.
Yeah, yeah,
And they're like,
yeah.
Google is
Yeah.
your friend. Go ahead. And now with AI, you're right. It's something that's a step above, and you can get all the information. Please continue.
I'm gonna give you this thing to look at later, and you can keep this in or not. But I got into this rabbit hole last night of watching this guy. Lord, what is his name? Al Neon.
Okay.
Okay. Go on TikTok and follow that guy. What he's apparently he is a product of MK Ultra or one of those things. The guy's obviously brilliant, like in this very weird way. He is using Grok to backdoor systems to find out what they did to him. And it's like,
Wow.
I mean, you watch this thing and you're like, is this really happening? Is this guy basically scolding AI, telling it to uncouple from whatever? It's very insanely brilliant. So it's like a guy you might want to talk to in the future. But Al Neon,
I'll take a look at it.
is
Yeah.
somebody you should definitely look at. But yeah, so for me, the first moment that something came loose, I was like, I got this figured out. Like, I just knew it was a matter of time. So I think when you have that first thing happen, you really are like, it becomes obsessive. That's why, like, for anyone that's taken flexibility fuel, most of everyone, they become addicted to it right away. Not because it's addictive by nature, because now you're feeling better and things are starting to happen. And you're like, every day, and like, sometimes I don't want to go to sleep. So I'm like, okay, what else can I get? Like, what else is going to come loose a little bit? Every day you're wondering what's next, what else is going to come loose, and knowing that it's all getting better with some, there's always going to be some malaise and some, I don't feel well, or I'm, having some sort of flare, but you know that it's working. That part, if you decide to try something like this, I think it's going to speak for itself. But if you're someone who is not sold on what I do, that's fine. But there is an answer out there. Your body is made to heal, right? You just got to find out how to put it in a position to heal. And that was kind of like one of my first concepts. And that's why I started juicing, because I thought that was the superfoods. And I was like, let me just put all this health into my body. But, I think with AI, things are going to be a lot easier to figure things out. So it's like, I even ask AI, because I know AI is programmed in a certain way, but I'm like, all right, if I was a conspiracy theorist and I only didn't believe in the modern medical system, which I do, but let's pretend that I don't, you got to kind of trick it into giving you like an answer.
Yeah.
And then it's going to tell you, oh, go seek medical advice no matter what. And it's just kind of like, well, medical advice has failed me up until now. So, but yeah, I just think using AI, being really curious, is the most important thing. And that's what hurts me the most, is when I go onto these Facebook pages and I'm like, hey, create a supplement. It's like, nobody's curious. And I'm just like, and that's, it becomes very tribal that, hey, I've gotten this diagnosis and now this is how I identify, because someone put this label on me and they said that's it. That's who you are now. And there's this one condition called ankylosing spondylitis. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
It's literally a bad back. But now it's got a name to it. And what they say is it's inflammation, because everything's inflammation. So it's because, that's where all the fascia is right there along your spinal cord. But then they're saying, and then it's creating bone. Well, collagen and bone are the same thing, right? So is it creating new bone? Your body's not creating new bone, right? There's this collagen response that may look like bone under an x-ray, but your body's not creating new bone. You would need a whole new set of DNA to start creating some other new skeleton, right? So now they become very tribal in that. And I'm just like, hey, you just have a bad back that has some inflammation that needs to be broken down. And then, no, doctor says this is incurable. And like, yeah, it's not curable because it's not a disease. It's like a state of your body. It's not like something to cure. It's this thing happened. You need to break it down. But, and I'm not saying I can cure anything, right? But I'm saying your body can cure it with the right tools. So I just think being super curious and not taking modern medicine's answer as the final answer. It might be the answer, but I wouldn't take it initially as the final answer. I'd keep looking.
Yeah, I mean, your body uses everything that you put into. So it's like, if you need to fix something in your house, you're not going to fix it with a hamburger. It's like,
Yeah.
no, you need the right tool. It's like a hamburger is not a tool.
Right.
It's like it's not gonna, stop a leak. It's not gonna, whatever. And it's like it's the same thing that people need to realize. It's like, okay, you have to treat your body and switch up the approach to heal. Like
Yeah.
you have to, like you saying, you have to identify all these things. You have to know what is causing you to feel this way. And even if you can't narrow it down, like that's a journey within itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Totally.
the body journey, the mental journey, and everything else. And get curious. That's what I keep telling people is like you have to get whatever it is, wherever you start, get curious as to
Yeah.
why you're going through it, and something will come up. And when it comes up,
Yeah.
you'll know how to approach it.
Yeah, like if I could tell anybody who like doesn't have the time or the money or whatever to spend on something, if they really want to try something that's just to like kind of dip your toe into the pool, is get out on the ground barefoot, right? Earthing, breathe in through your nose 11 times and out through your mouth, right? Just do it 11 times. That's for you. And then if you can get past this is a breathing technique I created. If you can get past that 11, just doing those 11 are for you, which seems easy. But when you get into it, it's not. And then you have to track it with your fingers because you're going to lose space, right? So 11, prayer hands up on 11. So then the next 11 are for your gratitudes, right? And then the next 11 is to try, you're inwardly looking for your pineal gland to connect it to the ether, right? The atmosphere holds electricity. It's ether, it's energy. It's more than likely part of our consciousness. And so you get through that grounding, properly hydrated with at least a mineral of spring water, right? And do your 33 breaths or just do the first 11 while you're grounded. And if that doesn't make you feel better, I can almost guarantee it's going to make you feel better. You're going to feel muscles twitching, things opening up, better mental clarity, you're going to feel better hydration. And I think even just starting with that, and it's like, okay, well, now maybe just drink more better water. And maybe that's good enough for some people. That was the missing piece is water, and that's all I need to do. But you have to start somewhere.
I in the summertime, that was my thing, because of course doing it in the wintertime people kind of balk at it, myself included. But it's like going out, whether it's before I left for work, if I didn't have time to go into the backyard, I would go stand in front of the house, let the sun hit me, and then go to work. And then I would come back and the weather's great, kids are running around and everything like that. I go into the backyard, sit at my chair and put my feet in the grass and, do the little crunchy thing with your toes and just sit there, breathe and let the sun hit me before it sets. And same thing in gratitude. I'm a first time homeowner. So every time I come home, every time I look at my house, I'm like, thank God. From a 3-bedroom apartment in the South Bronx to, a suburban home. And living the dream
with really cool lamps, by the way. I love the lamp behind you. I definitely
thank you.
Need to
Marshall's all the way. Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I'm down, dude. I grew up in a trailer park for part of my life, so I'm a poor kid, by heart.
And seeing and being experienced. So no, forget it, man. When my wife and I first moved into the house, we couldn't sleep. We thought somebody was in the bushes across the street. We were like, no, it can't be this quiet. There's no way on earth that something like a neighborhood could be this quiet. Crazy. And being in that sort of gratitude, my wife introducing me, she's like, no, you got to she's like, I used to do this all the time because she's from Dominican Republic. So she lived that kind of semi-country lifestyle. And she's like, just pulling fruit off the plant. I wish we had fruit plants, like fruit trees.
Yeah. Did she eat the organ meats? Did she eat like that, or would she?
She was actually. I think she would be open to it because before the pandemic, she wouldn't mind doing that. Then she became vegetarian, and then she switched back. Okay. She's like, I would make the steaks, and when she started eating it, and she was like getting more curious back into it, she was like, oh my God, I'm like. I said, you don't know what you've been missing.
Have you seen the videos of the people who have been vegetarian like their whole life and they try meat for the first time?
Yeah, and they're like, you see their mind like internally explode, like, oh my God. And, doing that now and then also incorporating that into my son. Like this summertime, I told my son, we're going to do it right, but you're the master of the grill now. Like you're doing it. And, doing the steaks, doing this and experimenting. I'm like, I said, we got to do it a little bit different. And I do I am going to get into one of those food services, like the meats and everything like that. Because, I mean, yeah.
Take this one down. U.S. Wellness Meats.
Gotcha.
So in the summer or whenever, you can get the patties that have liver and kidney as well as the ground beef. So it's a mixture. It's a little sweeter, right? But it's a good way to introduce that kind of stuff.
Oh, I love that.
Eating heart is super easy. Heart is just like eating steak almost, you know. Kidney doesn't have that bad of a taste. It's the liver that most people have the problem with. It's super nutritious though. But yeah, I would start with those patties from US Wellness Meats.
So they grind it all together?
It's all ground together. You get it. Yeah,
that's
you
awesome.
get them. Yeah. And it's
because I mean I got boys, so if I tell them, I'm like, look, there's a little bit of liver, a little bit of heart, they're gonna be like, nah. I'll be like, hey, try this out.
Right. Yeah. Hamburger's easy to eat, especially put some tomato and lettuce on it. So.
And we always switch it up. Like my wife introduced we had it before, and then we were introducing the kids to it. It's like, okay, let's chill out with the breads, with the carbs, and we would do the lettuce for the bread, like the lettuce wraps. And everything. And they were super into it. And I'm like, we're looking at, and we look at each other, we're like, we got to keep introducing these alternatives, because if they're growing up with one, so people, and we were guilty of it, like feeding our kids like nuggets all the time. Like, here you go.
And that's a lot of people think that these problems are genetic. It's like, we're just doing what our parents did to us. My mom, I mean, we'd have 6 bottles of Coke, Diet Coke, whatever, big 2-liter bottles lying around all the time. And, my mom ended up, she had fibromyalgia and, but she passed recently, but she, was on so many medications. And I'm trying to tell, like, Mom, there's a different way. And it's like Jesus, how when they said, oh, that's Joseph's son, the carpenter, or the builder, it's like the people closest to you don't want to listen, because, it's like I can talk to my best friend's son better than he can sometimes, because you have this natural inclination to kind of want to break away from family and parents and things like that. But yeah, it's I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, it's better to get advice from somebody that's sort of sitting outside your personal circle, I think.
Yeah.
It's just better received.
You definitely need to listen to more, like, because everyone's getting used to, like, understanding that mainstream, like, no, it's kind of produced, and it's who's ever paying for it to be said. Is we're getting the understanding that, it's a money game, and they will sell you anything that, as long as they're getting paid, like, okay, then you should know what you're putting into your body.
Right.
Like, dude, why the fuck are you selling it in the first place?
Yeah, that's
like, you shouldn't sell anything unhealthy.
But that's why I think it's intentional. That's why when you look at folic acid and the net benefit versus what it's actually doing to our population, it's not in balance at all. And this is, as you dig deeper, you find that this has been argued, and I think in Congress or somewhere in Washington before, that we don't think this should be on our food supply. And I'm one of those people. I think, folic acid is probably the hidden ingredient in the food that's causing the most problem, honestly. Yeah. And it, when you have histamine, that causes inflammation. And that inflammation leaves behind that fibrin then creates fibrosis and fibromyalgia.
And like you said, the seed oils, and it's just, if we don't do olive, avocado, or coconut oil, like, we don't,
Yeah. Do you do butter at all? Butter, ghee? So what's your thoughts on cholesterol? Yeah. Are you one of those cholesterol believers, or?
I mean, we don't really pay attention to that, in a sense, because we know that there's been, what's being found out now. It's just like, okay, why do you need to believe that? But we definitely don't do margarine. We don't do margarine.
Right. Yeah.
We don't do any of the spray, anything that we know already. It's like highly chemicalized. Like, no, we're not doing that.
And the reason I ask, because I've seen
the best one, I think, and I don't know, you can give me your opinion on it before you continue. We discovered avocado oil butter, like the plant-based, and it's really good, but then I get kind of worried, so I got to look a little more into it. Is if it's good because it's bad,
Right. So why not just butter?
I mean, we have like which is probably not the good one, like the country crock type of deal. If we don't get,
is that butter, or is that artificial?
That's butter.
I don't think that country crock is butter.
Yeah, we get like the sweet cream one or something, but we definitely stay away from like the margarine.
Yeah.
or the other types.
And
Yeah.
I'm still exploring with this stuff because I'm, everything's bad, obviously. But so it's like you're realizing that the olive oil, which I mainly use olive oil, like 80% of it's not actually olive oil. But I don't know if that number's right. You know what I mean? Like everything that somebody throws at you got to now research into that and see.
Yeah.
But, and then similar thing with avocado oil. And the thing is they're both seed oils, right? Which is sort of, they're both from the seed, and it all depends on how they get that out of the seed. So for me, mainly I stick with butter. I think butter is probably the safest, cheapest alternative for
Like a grass fed, because we also do the Irish butter.
Yeah, if you can. So with grass fed, so a cow has enough, digestive pathways that it's filtering out that linoleic acid. So you're not getting that linoleic acid when the cow's fed grain and corn. I think you're going to get most of the problem, and this is just me guessing, in the meat. If you're eating the meat, it's got all that fat and stuff in it. I don't know that the butter would be as effective, but I'm just guessing. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, looking ahead with everything you've, enlightened us with, what changes would you most like to see in how we talk about and treat chronic pain?
I mean, starting with what I've come up with, I think this would be a good foundational point. I mean, educating people on what inflammation really is, right? If it's the root of all disease, and nobody can, I've asked this question that even doctors, and they can't tell me that it's this cycle that starts here and here's all the steps and it ends here and now you're healed. But I think people just understanding who the enemy is, right? If inflammation is the main one, let's learn a little bit more about inflammation. I'm not saying go get a PhD in it, but do some Google research on it. It's oxidative stress. We've heard of antioxidants all the time, but we don't really understand what oxidative stress is until you sort of put, here's a name, here's a visualization, this is what it is, and then well, if these things cause oxidative stress and it's causing cell tissue death, then I don't want that to happen in my body. So I'm going to limit my exposure to that. So I think it would be not, I created it. I hope people utilize it at some, mass, but if it's not me, like, I don't think modern medicine is going to do anything with it though. It's like, I could talk about this forever, and I'm sure somebody in modern medicine is going to tell me I'm completely wrong, right? To keep them off the track. And that'll be enough for somebody to stay sick. I think just people becoming awakened is the answer. Having enough people being not afraid. I'm one of the first guys yelling about chemtrails a few years ago when this whole COVID thing was going on. And I was one of the guys who told my dad he was nuts, and now it's all coming out that it's true. And, it's so obvious when you look in the sky, and if you have any kind of mechanical knowledge, that a jet engine isn't going to produce that amount of vapor trails miles long in the sky. I just think you have to not be afraid to try things. That's all I did. I was just trying things. I was falling forward half of the time.
No, and I'm curious myself because, and I do want to look into your program and to be what I'm asking others to do and just do the research. Like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to look into it and I'm going to check what, the offerings and everything like that. And, I need to see the stuff I'm doing now. The last thing that worked was that 3-day fast.
Yeah.
And it's like, I want to get back and do that fasting, but I also, okay, if I'm doing a reset, like, what do I need to put into my body? And moving forward, like, I'm an adult. I have no excuses anymore.
Well, I'm formally inviting you to our fasting group. So I'll send you the WhatsApp. So you just jump in. Yeah, we got some pretty interesting characters in there. I don't want to say publicly who they are, but yeah.
No, that's awesome. I would love different insights and just to see, like, I'm a big proponent of, look, just try it. Just try it.
Have you ever done 23andMe or Ancestry or anything like that?
No, that's okay. One thing I'm very curious about doing. Like, I want to do that in general just to fulfill that curiosity of what those tests do, but on top of the health thing.
Part of me is like anti that because I know they're curating our algorithm and, trying to figure out ways to destroy us with some chemical they're going to put in our shampoo later. But
you're taking me back to Batman when the Joker was poisoning all the cosmetics.
Yeah, exactly. The TV man wouldn't wear makeup anymore. So if you ever do one, then you just send me the raw data. It's the raw data. And then I can look at your methylation and your detox cycle. Like, it's free. And I can look at your methylation and detox cycle, and then you just look at these things. You're like, oh, okay, well, I'm running higher homocysteine here. I need some methylation support on these 3 genes. My SOD gene is running slow. I need, this, supplement for that, whatever. And then you start introducing these things. I mean, you start noticing a change in energy levels, pretty quickly. It doesn't always last. You know what I mean? You got to stay with it, and
Yeah.
you're always kind of messing around, tinkering with it. But what I always do is when I feel really bad and it's going on for days, because this like depression will creep up on you, this sort of anxious state will creep up on you, and you feel it coming. You're like, you ignore it because it's going to go away, and you don't realize you're sort of like 2 days into it, and you're kind of like, shit, I haven't done anything productive in 2 days, and then so I go back to my methylation, test. And I'm like, oh, let me try this supplement. Let me try this thing. And then I try that. And it's like, okay, there we go. Kind of makes things, pushes the whole cycle through. And a really
One
good
thing,
supplement for that is SAMe. SAMe
okay.
supports that whole methylation cycle really well.
Like, what do you think? Because I found myself, other than like I switched from, because I'm, by way of New York, I'm Puerto Rican, and you go with the coffee, the butelo, and going that regular route with all the added sugar. I switched over to 2 things that I know that I feel the difference and the natural energy is switching to mushroom coffee. I want to get your thoughts on that. And I love it, and because of the whole thing with my gut health, it works better than a regular, coffee. And
Yeah.
also started taking a CoQ10.
Yeah. CoQ10 is great. So what I'm curious about, if you try it, is with your stomach issues, because the enzymes in the supplement help break down food, helps you with digestion. I wonder if you would see any benefit there. I know that Navy SEAL, I had a former Navy SEAL that tested this out when I was, sending in samples before I had it manufactured. His GI issues went away. But I don't know if he had the same issue that you're
Yeah,
dealing with.
no, understood.
But I'd be curious about it. But a good spice you want to add to your spice rack is cumin. So cumin helps break down your foods, helps with digestion. But yeah, I mean, do you drink milk?
No, I do my best. If I do have it,
Yeah.
what I find, and like I don't know if it's like a placebo effect or anything like that, but I asked my wife after we did the 3-day cleanse, I said, you know what? I would think oat milk was good, but like no, I heard it spikes your blood sugar.
Not only
Doctor
that,
said,
it's massively inflammatory.
yeah, so
Yeah.
we stopped that. We stopped having that in the house. Almond milk, I'm like, I'm
No,
on
you
the
don't want
fence on
that. It's
that.
got the oxalates. Yeah.
When we did the coconut milk, I'm like,
Okay.
in the morning, I was like, oh, I feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
Coconut milk plus a coconut creamer that's coconut milk based, and I'm like, I said, look, I think we got something here.
Try
So
raw milk.
raw milk.
Yeah, try raw milk. I'm curious because it's loaded with enzymes. The pasteurization and the homogenation process of regular milk destroys all the enzymes, and the enzymes is what helps with the digestion. And it also destroys most of the nutrients in it. So I drink raw milk. I get 3 bottles delivered every month. I get 2 cow milk and 1 goat milk every month. I just feel like overall with complexion and skin and health, and when I need a snack, it's a great snack. It's super fulfilling. I'd be curious if that would.
So you have a local provider, or is
There's
this
a
like
farm that's kind of close by that delivers it, but they deliver it through FedEx. I'm sure. I mean, you're out in kind of farm area a little bit, aren't you? And there.
no, I'm in northern Yonkers, so it's still in the slash city part,
Gotcha,
well
yeah.
above New York City, but not in the boondocks. Yeah.
So just see if there's a what do you call those? Like Amish farmers market anywhere in the
Yeah,
vicinity.
I missed that. In the wintertime, all the farmers markets they're done. So like I'm waiting for it to, like I introduced my son to that. My oldest and he's looking around and he's like, oh, shit. And I'm like, what's up? He's like, oh no, all the fresh fruit. He's like, his head is, the gears are turning. I'm like, you wondering what to do and cook with this, right? He's like, yeah. I would love for him to cultivate, even if he wasn't going to be a chef. I would love for him to cultivate that. So it's a good feeling to like cook for yourself and cook for others. And when you're doing it and I want to introduce him like, this is great food. This is great food here. go for it. As I told him, I said, I want to order, get into those services that you could order game meats and things that like, I said, dude, you got to branch out and see what else is there. Like something like, I told him, I said, I tried it before. I was like, I want you to eat shark. He's like, I said, yeah, like just whatever you can. And just, you see the difference. And then your mind just starts expanding and you're not stuck in this fast food mode,
right?
Things like that. And you take more enjoyment in it. When you take more enjoyment in it, the happiness, it counteracts any of those, whatever bad state you're in or the stress you're dealing with, even if you're not trying to alleviate yourself from past traumas.
Right.
Maybe just having a bad day. Yeah. Dude, go out onto the back and grill.
There's an interesting thing that with the mental health aspect of it and talking about past traumas and like, I'm sure people have had more trauma in me than in their life, but like I've had some significant trauma in my life from 2 very alcoholic stepfathers. And the only time that I blamed my past traumas on anything is when I was anxious. When that anxiety would go away, it wouldn't come up. Or my depression, like the depression would kind of come and go. And I'm very aware of it. It's not like classic depression, you know what I mean? It's like you just kind of feel it happening. But it would make me really think things like, oh, why, blah, blah, blah. When we feel this way, we're looking for something to blame. We're looking for the problem. And a lot of times we probably land on the wrong place. And I think most of the time it's our food, it's heavy metals. Like when I did my first heavy metal cleanse, like I couldn't see the computer. I couldn't look at my phone. I was having all these depressive, and I was like, I was having these same thoughts yesterday and they didn't bother me. So why is this showing up as trauma now? And it's because my body was off. And so when I did the heavy metal cleanse, which was another cleanse we talk about, but it was chlorella tablets, cilantro oil, silica water. And so it binds onto these heavy metals and pulls on your body. Within a day or two, my vision cleared up. And then all that nonsense noise that I was hearing in my head just disappeared. I was like, okay, there I am. There's my normal me. Because I don't stress about things. People say you push them down or no, you just put them over there. Like we don't need to go create an emotion, go dig that up just to experience it. Like I've coped with it by saying, this doesn't matter that much. It's go over there. It's still going to sit with you forever. But I think when you're in an unhealthy state of mind, you're looking for the enemy. You're in fight or flight. You're looking for the danger. It's most likely because of this Freudian nonsense psychology world that we live in. You're going to go blame your family. Right, which is exactly what the powers that be want, is separate us from our family, separate us from our faith, separate us from nature. And I think that when you do this fasting and clear so much of that up, you get a clarity that, hey, maybe I'm unhealthy and I'm doing it to myself,
Yeah, in both aspects, definitely, like physical and mentally.
And mental, yeah.
Yeah, it's when I had the chance of basically doing a retreat that works on myself and doing even, like you say, doing the fasting, doing the heavy metal detox, but there's also the digital detox. Like,
that's my big problem.
Put the fucking phone away, and it's just, put it in, I think certain phones have like a sort of like a basic, put it in a basic mode and maybe just have your emergency contacts. Those are the only ones that ring on your phone.
Yeah.
And having that digital detox on top of everything else, that was a big relief.
Yeah.
Like I told one of my sons, he would, go to this kind of cycle of acting up and this and how he would step forward. And I'm like, that's not you. That's not you. And when I took the phone away and the tablet away, and then I look at him, I'm like, and I told him straight to his face, I said, you are different when you don't have your devices with you.
Yeah.
I know you're probably going to think like, something happened where all the stuff is gone. And then before I wasn't in my healing space, I didn't recognize that his true self was coming out when he did something that would have he got reprimanded, got his devices taken away. Then I thought the person that he was it was getting upsetting. It was getting like, what are you doing? Why do you want me to do stuff like this or that? And I'm like, and then when I came to myself and I worked on myself, I'm like, look, stop being an ass. Stop, letting your traumas hold you down. And then I look now and I'm like, fuck, no, that's him. He's showing up. If, we're working on the food aspects for all my 3 kids and even for ourselves, but it's doing better for our kids. But then you know when you see I know my kids' true laugh.
Yeah,
I know
yeah,
when they're just faking it, or I know
yeah,
when
yeah,
they
yeah,
have their real laugh and their real
yeah,
personality. And then when the device is taken away from him, I see that coming out. And I told my wife, I'm like, we have to do that a little bit more, because
yeah,
I said, have you ever heard their real laugh? And she's like, no, I have. She's like, haven't I? She's like, I love it. I said, me too. So I know when he has a
yeah,
certain type of laugh, and I'm like, no, he really finds that funny. And to
yeah.
see that, you know when it's suppressed in your kid and it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. The tough thing is you're up here in the wintertime, we're stuck inside so
Yeah.
much, and that really kills me. I mean, I go down to Florida a few times a year. I just got back from Key Biscayne last week. And, I go down there and I feel so much better. And my one buddy, he teaches kids. It's this program called RAY. It's Respect, Attitude, Effort. And he's a 3-time All-American Duke lacrosse player. And he's down in Key Biscayne with all these families that are sending these kids to him for that digital detox and for that one-on-one coaching interaction. Look me in the eyes, say, yes, Coach Matt. And his kids get almost no screen time. I mean, TV, internet, like nothing. And they're way more involved. It's golf, it's lacrosse, it's tennis, it's constant. They're constantly doing stuff, and they're great kids. One interesting thing that I did find recently, an interesting study, was that, I'm in the energy business. So LED lights everyone switched to LED. It's more efficient, et cetera. So they took kids in a classroom. These, some of the kids had behavioral problems. One of them was like full blown ADHD. They changed the lights from the LED lights back to the old light bulbs, and it
Incandescents.
calmed everybody down. And I changed it in my living room, and I noticed the warmth sort of come back to sitting in my living room, rather than that just, here's the light in your eyes. It's like what we're seeing when we're oncoming traffic, and we're living under those lights all the time. And I think for our kids, not only are they staring at screens all the time, but they're in their school environment, eating the bad food and, closed quarters. And, once again, it's like one of those things. Well, like, at least in my home, I'm not, they're not going to be exposed to that. They'll be exposed to it in school, unfortunately, and wherever else. But like, as much of a retreat that I can make this home a health retreat, for my family, is, I think, the best service I can give them. Yeah.
That's why I love that the city of Yonkers, their education department, they put into effect that no kid is supposed to have their phone available to them. They bought a ton of those Yonder pouches.
Yeah, yeah.
Kids put their phones in the Yonder pouches, and that's it. As soon as you get in, put it in there, lock it up, you carry it with you, but you're not using it for the whole day.
Right. Yeah.
And then when you get home, all right, when you leave school, great. On school grounds, no phone usage.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if hopefully they're following that up with studies to say, hey, look at the performance pre pouches and post.
Yeah.
All my kids, and of course every parent would say, oh, my kids are smart and everything, but no, my kids are naturally, coming from my wife and I, I have a 5-year-old, and he's recognizing words and he's reading.
Yeah.
And, and our teachers say he's on track, like he's above average. Great. All our kids were above average. And it's like, I want to keep cultivating that, because I tell them, I said, look, I tell them straight out, I'm like, I'm seeing the difference. I'm seeing the difference between you being always on the device and then when you're not. So it's like, we got to work a little happy medium out of here, or you're going to force me to make a decision that you're really not going to like.
Yeah.
And I'm willing
to. You good at sticking to those decisions?
No, I am. Yeah. I'm the older before, no. I will be insanely honest with you before, because then it's like, okay, I want to focus on something, and then I'm in my little spiral. So I'm like, all right, here, take it.
Yeah.
Otherwise I'm like, get your ass off the YouTube. I said, you know what? Find a good show to watch. Find a good show. I will recommend something to you. Like, get something in a story wise. My middle kid, he took the comic bug, which I was a part of. So I was like, look, I said I wouldn't be who I was if I didn't have comics in my life.
Right.
And to see those visuals, the good stories, not just the junk ones, and all the things that could be possible. And you can expand your way of thinking. I got that through part of it through comics.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I mean, I read books. I mean, like, I was just watching something growing up in the 70s. Like, we devoured books, because that's what's like, I had all these choose your own adventure books.
I love those.
That was my Minecraft, back then.
Yeah.
but yeah, and now, everything is just so available to people that they understand no patience. You can binge watch an entire episode of something. You don't have to wait until next week. And I think in that waiting creates character, right? That we just don't have. And it creates a sort of patience. Another thing, it's interesting, just like how many, you talk about your son cooking now, like how many women don't cook? Like they don't know how to even make a meal. Like, we could talk about this another time, but like I'm single now. My second kid, my kid's mom, we split up, or it's whatever. It's a weird situation, but
Gotcha.
a lot of story behind it. But what was the point here? What were we talking about? Oh, cooking. So now I'm single, so I'm single and I don't date, but I'm on the dating apps just to kind of see like what's out there, but I have no interest in it. And I just hear I just see everyone's just like, I don't cook. I was like, what do you mean you don't cook? Like it's the most basic thing you have to do other than breathe is feed yourself.
Yep, absolutely.
And it's like nobody knows how to make a meal. And so I ended a relationship with a girl 8 months into it. She didn't make me one meal.
Wow.
Not didn't make me one time. She didn't ever make me a meal one time. So it's like, yeah.
That's
And I was like,
you were doing all the cooking or
I
ordering and
love to do the
everything.
cooking. That's the thing. Yeah, I love
Yeah,
to cook,
me too.
and I think it's for me. There's no greater title than dad, right? And that gives you purpose. Before you're dad, you have no purpose. You're just kind of going by doing whatever, and then it's like the epitome of being a dad. It's like feed my kids, take care of my kids. So I think it's part of the deal, and I think a lot of men kind of miss out on that nurturing part because there's all a feminine and a masculine inside all of us, right? And so I think to stay completely pushed into this sort of masculine place is a disservice to your spirituality and growth and your family's growth as well. So yeah, I've got friends females who commiserate with me all the time about their husbands. And I said, he's a good guy. He's just a guy. It's like you look around and see what else is out there. There's not much else out there. You guys are going to act like guys and tigers are going to act like tigers, and you got to expect some things. But yeah, I think once again, just kind of getting back to food. It's super, super important to have a good relationship with food.
It is, and that's. But you're absolutely right because I used to do like my wife can cook, and but it's coming from that traditional, Latin culture where it's like if the woman doesn't cook or doesn't know how to cook or serve their man and everything. But it was like it was different because when
Yeah.
they would see us together, they're like, wait, he serves his own food or he cooks for you. He's able to stand in whenever you need to work and take care of the kids. And it's like all of those kind of tropes like that would seem like, wait, he does that or he this or that. And they're like, he's a little bit gay or something like all these stupid things will come out. And it's like,
Right.
no, she was like, no, he's a responsible individual. He's chipping in. We're doing this 50-50.
Yeah.
And she would cook, I would cook. They're like, oh my God, he cooks. And like, yeah, like what was it? When we were dating while watching like the Game of Thrones, I'm like, oh, it's on. Let's make a meal, this and that. What do you want to cook? Then she's like, no, I'll cook with you. So it's like, perfect. Like, let's do this. And to your point of like with the health and everything, and then especially when you're in a kind of couple setting, a lot of times you really want that support.
Yeah.
And when you're doing these things together, it feels great.
And that's why it comes down to education. So once you get on the same page about what nutrition actually is, on my website, I call that spreadsheet the world's greatest supermarket list or shopping list or whatever, because it has all the grids, and it's like if it's in green, it means it's highly bioavailable. But like if you want like iron from spinach, you're going to need 30 cups of it, right? And it's not even the right type of iron, and it's more than likely not going to be bioavailable, and you're not going to be able to convert it. And then you've loaded yourself with other plant chemicals. Plants don't want to be eaten. So it's like once you can get on that same page, and so this is what I did with a friend of mine whose son has autism and he won't eat anything good, right? And I just remember watching a documentary a long time ago. I think it's called The Magic Pill, about how they gave this nonverbal kid a sort of like a keto type of diet, and he started talking, not like perfectly, but he was now speaking and able to communicate what he was thinking. And so the the kid won't listen to his parents, but I show him my chart. He goes, "Oh, hey, Espo, it's like, you show me that chart. Can you laminate this for me? And I want to hang it on my wall." And so now he's going to be educated about it. So at least he's going to see it. You know what I mean? And he's going to now have them imprinted on him for whenever he does decide to take that step. He's a young kid, you know, but whenever he does decide to take that step, he's going to have a little bit of a foothold to, you know, to get there.
And that's great. And you're right. It's like, for myself, a lot of things wouldn't have clicked because I'm 47. So a lot of the things that clicking with me now would have never clicked in my 30s, would have never clicked in my 20s.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell are you talking about? You know, let me, you know, get some professional chicken wings from the Chinese spot. You know, it's like, and looking at it now, it's like, damn, I wish I could go back and tell myself, like, stop. But you know what? That's the past. It's done.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna live in a space that's going to pause me in the present and then throw myself, okay, if I don't do that, then I'm too ahead of myself and being anxious about something that hasn't even happened yet for my future.
Yeah.
That's the wonderful thing is I'm pushing myself to be, you know what? I need to be present. Like even today, like my wife, she's getting ready to leave to a birthday party and she's taking my youngest. And I'm like, okay, I got to prep for this interview. I have to do so-and-so and this and that, make my two other older kids breakfast. And I'm like, but then I'm looking across from her in the bed. I'm like, I need to be here. I need to be here. I need to be here now. Yeah. If I'm not here now, she knows I'm somewhere else. That doesn't benefit us. I say that to mean that when you're in that situation, and a lot of people take that for granted, when you're in that situation, it helps alleviate a lot of the stresses when you're present. And that's so very important for people nowadays who are stuck in the past or anxious about the future.
Yeah. There's an interesting thing that this kind of, and I just came up with this. There was a guy on TikTok this morning who's like, you know, Jesus was dropping bars, right? He said to the devil after he came out of his 40-day fast, devil, Lucifer, whoever it was, came up to him and said, "Hey, I'll give you anything. I'll give you anything that you want, anything that you want." And it wasn't really the devil, but it was like himself, like wanting to, like having temptation. But what did he say? He said something like, "I cannot be tempted. I am the here, I am the now," or something like that, meaning that I am present and I am always. So I am always present. And I just thought about that. Like, you know, I still worry about a lot of things. You know, I'm always, you know, worried about the present. And I think hearing that verse and just being like, all right, I'm going to repeat that whenever I'm starting to wander off. And it brought me back to that place. So it's funny. It was after his fast and you're talking about, you know, you're trying to be present with your wife, but I think it's almost like something I would get tattooed on me because I'm so not present more often than I'd like to be. And I think that's why my mind kind of wanders when we're, you know.
For me, it's a great practice. And I would tell people to be more cognizant. And I referred it, and I had this on another podcast, and I saw a photo on Instagram where it is a guy sitting next to his dog. And then the dog has the thought bubble of the same image of him sitting next to his human.
Right,
but then the human had the thought bubble of money, relationship, this or that. And it's like, you know, it's like, be like the dog, you know, be present. The dog's like, I'm here, I'm with them. What the hell are we going to do now? Let's, you know, I love this person and, you know, I'm just here in the moment with them. Oh my God. But then the other person's like, oh my God, you know, and then I'm like, shit, like, no, I need to, and those little things, I'm like, no, it's like, I'm here now, I'm present. You know,
and I think that like for me or for people, and I don't want to make an excuse because I'm like not someone that likes to give excuses, but I also like to be realistic. So I think being present probably takes structure, right, in your life. So you know where you're going to be present at the time you're going to be present. So for someone who has chronic pain or has dealt with chronic pain, you don't know when you're going to show up all the time and that you're going to have the energy or the power to be so structured. So it's like, all right, I have all these plans, but like, I can't even move without wanting to cry, you know, it's like, so that's my next thing is I think in being present, I need to create more structure around my day, which I don't have much structure in my day now. I'm self-employed in 2 different businesses and, you know, and just kind of wake up and do whatever I do and it's kind of working. And so I just keep doing that. But feel like I'm doing myself a disservice by not ending the evening saying, this is what I'm going to do tomorrow. This is how I'm going to get it done. And being more present, because then I'm not beating myself up for not doing those things when I'm with my family, and thinking about, oh, I should have done this. I should have done this. So, yeah.
No,
Do you have much structure? Do you structure your day pretty well? How do you
yeah,
do it?
I do. It's mainly like starting with the day, getting up, getting myself ready. Of course, if there wasn't anything to handle the day before, do that now. Yes, there is a sort of the planning thing, but like with me, like right now, I'm looking for a new job. And so the whole present thing is like, okay, I have an opportunity to get something amazing, and I'm waiting for them. I'm waiting to hear back. And if I get it or not, that's the way it is. So that's what I'm putting out there. How I would sabotage myself would be like, I'm going to get this job, and then I'm going to be able to do this. I'm going to be able to do that. And I'm living in a space that may be in another universe, but it might not happen to me in my existing life.
Yeah.
So I did that before, and then I had that opportunity prior. I have that opportunity again. But what I'm not doing is saying, I said, you know what? If I get it or not, that's great. I'm still waiting to hear back, and I need to be here. Even people would think if I said, okay, if I'm getting ready for this interview, I got a plan to get make sure my kids are fed and do X, Y, and Z. That planning to me is like how you said, I got a plan for my next day.
Yeah.
But if you're putting yourself 3-6 months into the future, like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
I know that I put myself in a place to say that my future is fluid. I would love for it to go this way, but I know it can change at any time.
Yeah. For the way I look at it, for me, is one, I mean, we do have some control over our destiny, but I also think that, I used to think, oh, everything happens for a reason. I think everything happens for a reason, but I think certain things happen for a reason. And so if you do or don't get that job, that's because some purpose is you're going towards some other purpose. And so, I mean, with whatever happened in your life, you may have not picked up becoming a podcast host. And like, you don't even know that there's someone out there that has healed or had such a great experience from listening to your podcasts that you've changed their life forever. And so I think that if you're in purpose and you're okay with that purpose, then you're going to be happy. If you're in purpose and you're just like being influenced by all this outside noise and you're pulling away from this purpose, none of that, there's going to be no area of happiness for you. So
there was so many other things that I wanted to do, and I knew like this, and that's the thing, this never went away. My wife and I almost ended our relationship. We, would have had to sell the house, co-parent, do all that other sort of thing. But we got so curious about, okay, do we still want to be with each other? Do we still love ourselves? Do we still love each other? And when we were able to get over that hump, then it's like, okay, let's move towards something, but don't put the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to go anywhere. So we have like a sort of kind of unofficial kind of game plan, meaning, one, we put ourselves first. We got to make sure our mental health is good. Our physical health is good. Family, pulling back from doing things for other people. And like, I've dealt with this issue. And so I tell myself, I'm like, look, and I tell people the same thing. I'm like, if you're doing something, like, are you serving it or is it serving you? And if it's not serving you, then you really have to make that decision of like, do I need to keep this in my life?
And the question is like, what part of you is it serving? Right.
Exactly.
So if it's not serving you financially, you think just the serving you spiritually may not be enough for you. And I think that's where a lot of people get things wrong. It's like, I've realized that as men, we're never truly loved. You know what I mean? Like,
or seen or heard.
What can
Absolutely.
you do for me? And I accept that. Okay. So then what am I here for? And I'm here to fulfill a purpose. And my purpose is to be a good role model for my kids and to follow this path in helping people find their healing path. And I think if I stop worrying about me getting my needs filled and I'm in service to others, I feel great doing that. Like, I don't feel like, I think you're sort of conditioned along the way to make you feel like you're no good because you're always giving. People are always taking from you. Well, yeah, that's the well I want to be for people. I want to be that support system for people. I want to give people hope. I want to give people a helping hand when they have to move something. You know, I want to be in service to others. And I think as a man, and I think this is why what hurt me the most in my early part of my journey is like, I just want to be useful, right? I can't even reach up to get a can of soup out of the top of the, cupboard because everything's just stuck. And if I want to reach under here, like nothing would move. And so you're coming from this guy that can literally do everything. Like you couldn't put something in front of me I couldn't figure out or do. So I can't even wash dishes without pain or comb my, whatever, some goofy stuff. And so I think as a man, our true happiness comes in fulfilling purpose, and that's being needed. Being useful.
But there is no but, because you're absolutely right. The thing that you were able to do was heal yourself. You're able to put yourself on the road to recovery, and you made sure that you were in a steady position to do all the things that you're doing now. And that's, I believe that's kind of like the key factor, where is a lot of people want to do what you do and be in service and help. And same thing with me with the podcast. There were times where I tripped up, where if you look at my release dates, like there's huge gaps.
Yeah.
And then those were gaps of doubt, of pain, of everything. But then once I turned that around and I'm able to, I focused on myself. I said, you know what? I got to start healing.
What was the final thing that motivated you to turn it around?
It was when I released one of my biggest traumas, and I was being like sexually assaulted as a child, by a family member. And it's like releasing that put me, but that's the thing. And this is where I get to, because I don't even know if I was going to actually bring it up, because I said about my story, how I came up with the podcast.
Yeah.
Is I was, like, I don't care if I said it in the other episodes, because then the same people are not going to hear it. I don't know. Who cares? Whoever hears it, hears it. I was doing sort of independent contracting, delivering for packages and things like that. And you get a 2-hour block. And the last address was in the Bronx at the building, and at the same floor. It was the last fucking delivery. Wow. Same building, same floor, but not the same apartment. So I'm going into the building, I'm putting the packages down, I'm looking at the door, and I'm like, okay, before it used to fuck me up. I was carrying this for like over 40 years.
Yeah.
30 years. I'm 47. So yeah, about 30 years. I go outside, call my wife. I said, look, this is where I'm at. This is what's happening. I'm okay. I'm not freaking out. And I said, I just need some time. And she's like, she texted me back. She's like, okay, I get it. I don't know if we text or called, but anyway, she's like, look, okay, I get it. Come back when you can. She's like, I'm still here with the kids. This was during the pandemic time. She's like, I'm still here with the kids. Just keep that in mind. And that's what happened. And I don't know where I went, because we had a newborn right after the pandemic happened. This is like March 2020. He was born.
Yeah.
I'm doing this, and on the side to make something a little extra. And so I go take my time. And that's what I'm telling you. I'm just sitting thinking like, fuck, why I keep going through this? Why am I going through this? And what's happening and this and that? And then out of the fucking blue, it just said, boom, I got the name of the podcast, what I wanted to do. Like, I need to strengthen myself, and how am I going to help other people?
Right.
And so coming up with that, my wife thought it was a great idea, and she helped me with the logo. She helped me with a lot of things. And then I encountered someone who was doing something, and my wife was like, you need to interview her. And by interviewing her, she interviewed me about my story, because it was about her journey through her sexual abuse as a child. And that led me to her son, and another individual having these retreats. And that retreat helped me alleviate, or release, not alleviate, it helped me release my biggest trauma, which was the sexual trauma.
Yeah.
And that put me on the journey of, because you don't know what you're dealing with that's kind of festering under that larger trauma. Because once I was able to release that and know that it wasn't my fault, forgive myself and all that good stuff, my anger issues, anxiety, relationship problems, and everything there. Like that one anchor was gone. I see all the other little anchors on my true self.
Yeah.
And which is what I'm working on now. And
Yeah.
that part of it is helping me handle the more physical part of making myself more healthier physically. You know, because everybody needs to know that mental and physical bond, you have to work on both of them.
Together,
Have to.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because, so, you know, I would have these outbursts, like these anxious outbursts that I, you know, not too bad. And probably most people wouldn't even notice them, but I would notice them. Some people would notice them. But I remember at I was, you know, coaching my son's baseball game, and I got like angry with kids. Not like angry, I'm not like whatever, but I wanted to be, you know, you're nicer to these kids. You don't want to be like, you guys got to do it this way because they're all getting rowdy, whatever. I was like, wow, I really could have handled that differently. And I was like, and I wanted to beat myself up a little bit. And I was like, gosh, the last time I had this conversation was a few months ago, though, not a few days ago. You know what I mean? Like where it was just constantly showing up. And, you know, mine, you know, for me, I don't think anything has to do with emotional trauma. I mean, I'm sure there was some emotional trauma that happened, but I don't, you know, I see more of it was a physical issue that's causing the mental health problems as well as, you know, poor food choices. Yeah, it's when you start noticing that they're less frequent, the bad days, you're like, wow, well, then where am I going? You know what I mean? Like how much better is this going to look a year from now? And that's really exciting because that was a kind of a pivotal moment for me. And I used to worry all the time. Like I used to not be able to go to sleep and, you know, worry about, you know, finances and kids and all this kind of stuff. And I don't know what happened. It just clicked. I says, you're worrying about something that you may have to worry about later. So stop worrying about it today. You know? And it's just like, okay, yeah, I guess, you know, if there's a problem I need to fix, go fix the problem. But worrying's not going to solve
that negative perception, or what's the other word? There's perception and
talk back, or
but I know it's perspective, like perspective and perception. When it's all in the negative, it's like, it's not serving you. It's not.
Right.
And to put yourself in a position to give yourself that different outlook and to say, okay, and same thing, what I started doing to myself is in such a good way. And I had a good connection with another guest where I said, I got emotional because I said right before my podcast with you, I was dealing with some stuff and I was talking to my younger self. Like apologizing, like, look, you're going to go through a lot of things. You're going to, the life that you lived or gonna live, you know, it's not going to be easy, but it's going to turn you into somebody amazing.
Yeah.
Or who's going to be doing amazing things. You're going to put out a children's book. You're going to have a podcast. You're going to talk to amazing people, and you're going to get so many ideas, and you're going to put yourself on a road that you don't know where it's going. And to have that conversation with myself as a younger child that was innocent, didn't have anything, you know, didn't have the weight, you know, that I have on my shoulders now.
Yeah.
It makes a difference because having that internal conversation, you know, and people would think, oh, you know, I'm not crazy. I'm not going to be talking to myself. But it's like, no, you need, you know, I told my wife when she was going through something, she's like, I help more people than I help more people in so many different ways than I help myself. I said, you know, and there was a piece of me that got negative. Was like, I'm tired of having this fucking conversation with you. But I said, okay, first reaction might be valid, but is it right?
Right.
And me having that situation before, I said, fuck, okay, you know, that's my reaction to it, but should I say that? No. So I said, you know what? I said, try this. I said, I don't want to tell you what to do. I said, I don't want to tell you what to do, but if you're in this type of space where you're in that situation where you think you're helping more people than you're helping yourself, then guess what? I said, and I have it here. I said, I took her mirror, and I said, you know what? Sit down at the table where I'm doing podcast now. I said, put that in front of you. Talk to yourself.
Sorry. Yeah.
You know, it's okay. I said, put that in front of you and ask that person in the mirror, how can I help you? Make that person in the mirror your priority rather than other people. And other people, other situations, other companies, you know, being in service to other people's projects. I'm like, you don't want to do that anymore, but you're torturing yourself about you doing that. Let's switch it up.
Yeah.
Do you want to accept my advice? She's like, yeah, I want to hear what you have to say. Do this. Put that mirror in front of you. Speak to that person. Yeah. Tell that person, I love you. How can I help you?
Yeah. It's the vibration has to come out, right? The word,
Yes.
like everything is energy. And so, I mean, one, you're your own worst critic.
Hmm.
Nobody's criticizing you as much as you are. You know what I mean? This one eyebrow hair, and you're like, nobody's fucking cares. Like, so we're always constantly picking ourselves. You know, when so the moment that I decided that I was going to fix this is I was at the gym. Like I said, I was 265 pounds. I'm walking around. My kid's mom's 20 years younger than me. I was like, she's not going to stick around with me. Like I can't even, I can't do anything. I'm fun, whatever. And I said, I can't be the dad I want to be because I was having mood swings and, depression. And I just said, I said it out loud. I said, I'm going to fix this. And then it's kind of, once again, goes back to the whole biblical thing. Like Daniel was thrown in the lion's den. Daniel was favored by the king because his ability to interpret things, to figure things out. And so my whole life, and I just saw a thing about growing up in the 70s that said this, but I want to think it's unique to me. But my whole life is spent, I'll figure it out. Like I went to 3 high schools. I was not on track to go to college, but I went to one of the best, state schools in Pennsylvania. I didn't play football, ended up going to the NFL with 4 contracts, more than the Division I guys that got drafted ahead of me when I was a free agent. I got into the mortgage business having no finance experience in my life and became President's Club, started an energy brokerage. I'll just figure it out. And it's like, if everyone just applies that and looks for things, they're going to figure it out. You're going to find yourself or your solution or, a reason why, whatever it's going to be, but you have to be curious and you have to say to yourself, I accept that I'm not perfect. I know that I don't know almost anything. Like the amount of stuff that I know compared to what's available to know, I know very little and I need to go find out more things about myself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm totally for that in every possible way, to be so self-reflective and
Yeah.
to be like, dude, you don't see the superstar that you can be.
And it's death of ego. You need to let your ego die. Like I'm a NFL player who's this, and was a handsome kid growing up, and had all these, 3 Miss America contestants as girlfriends at one point. But I knew everything. I had to know nothing. I had to be nothing in order for me to find a solution for chronic pain that I was told was impossible or that was unfindable. So yeah, there's an answer for everything.
Absolutely. I totally, vibe with that. And, you have to, like you said, and what I've been saying all this time is get curious about yourself. You will find so many different answers, but then you will love where it takes you because you're going to see the different paths that you can go and then what sticks. And then it's like, you're going to love that freaking ride.
Yeah, it's good for you. It soothes your soul. And I think that's like the most important feeling is to feel at ease,
I totally
because,
agree.
yeah, we don't get many of those moments.
Now, Daniel, where can people connect with you,
Oh,
learn
yeah.
more about the Undu method if they're curious about a different path out of
Yeah.
chronic pain?
So my website is, and it's funny how you had the epiphany, the name. I was listening to a podcast where this guy said undo, but he meant UNDO. And I thought, well, UNDU is like Hindu because I incorporate breathing and Eastern philosophies into the method, but it's undu.me. So undo me. And then on there, you can get the supplement. If anybody wants to try it, Flex is a discount code, FLEX. But there's a link on there that will take you to where the Undu Method program sits. It's on a different platform. It's withme.so/Undu Method. But if you just go to undo.me and click on the Undu Method link, it'll take you right to that website. So, for less than $50, you can get flexibility fuel. It can last you up to 60 days if you're taking half a scoop a day. It's still effective at half a scoop per day, depending on where your finances are. The more you take, the more beneficial it's going to be because these are actively working to help your body repair itself. And then the method itself, so I sell it for $196.33. Everything's $369 in my world. So, and then you get a free bottle of flexibility fuel, and then you have access to it forever, and then any updates that I do to it as well. Or for $13.96, you can subscribe to it monthly. You can get through it in a couple days, a week, a month, whatever it is, and have all that knowledge just kind of memory banked, write down a bunch of notes. So for less than $15, you can have access to the method, the toolkit that allowed me to heal myself. and knowing all the pitfalls, right? That's the good thing, is that like, hey, if you're going to try this, these things might happen to you. Or if you're going to try this feeling may occur. Just expect it and know what it is, right? So it's giving you just a walk in the path down the road. My family's coming home here. So
Perfect timing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm really glad if anytime you want to talk again, if you find you get some good feedback from the conversation, I could get more into how the method works. I'm not afraid, like you said, giving up the secret sauce. Really, what I want people to do is to buy the supplement. That's how I hope to earn an income from this, so I can keep going and keep serving people in this capacity. But yeah, if you want to talk again at some point, or somebody makes a comment like, I want to know more about the method, I'm more than willing to come on and
I actually wanna try it, so that when I try it, to let you know, like, okay, this is what worked for me, and be sort of like give you my viewpoint.
Sign up for the website. I'll gift it to you, so you won't have to. It'll just be there for you, so you can just log in. What it is, it's a bunch of videos in sections. It's probably like 30 something videos or so, like 5 minutes long. Some are maybe 10 or 12 minutes long, and then it's me explaining exactly what's on the slides and kind of just walking you through it. I think I make it very accessible for people who don't have a degree in biology or physiology, but yeah, I'd be interested in your feedback. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I'm in that realm of the chronic pain and everything, and again, I'm in my curious journey.
Yeah, get the supplement, man. I mean, please get the supplement. And I don't say that so I can make money. I really know. I know that it's going to help. Like, I mean, it's just like, I call it the world's greatest supplement on the label. Like, I'm not putting it out there. Did you see the video of the guy reviewing it? I met a guy in a nutrition store trying to get the owner to like carry it. He didn't carry it, but some guy came in and said, hey, my wife's dealing with this ankle. I've got these shoulder injuries. I told him where he could get it. I thought he was going to call me and just come pick up a bottle. So I thought he just went away and I never heard from him. But it turns out he did buy some. I didn't see his order online. And 2 weeks into it, he called me up and ordered and got 4 more bottles because it was working for him. And so there's a video, on my YouTube that has, or on my Instagram or TikTok, which is all Undu method, UNDU method, of him talking about how quickly it's working for him. And he's like, I can't believe how quickly this is working. Like, you put world's greatest supplement on the bottle. So it's like, I have to try it. This guy's either full of shit or this is a good supplement. So
yeah, I'm super curious about it.
So,
yeah, I'm gonna order it. I'm gonna order
awesome.
it, and I'll definitely give you my feedback.
Flex is the discount code. And then I'll give you the Undu method for free.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Daniel, I am so happy to have you on my podcast. And
thank you so much.
I am looking forward to that future episode of the follow-up. And absolutely, man.
Yeah,
I
that
really
would be great.
appreciate
After you go through it, let's do a follow-up and see how it worked. And I would love that. That would
Perfect.
be cool. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time.
You.
All right. Take care.
All right, have a great day.
All right. You as well. Thanks a lot, man. I will.
Thank you, Oscar. That was an impactful episode. Your body is paying attention to what you do and don't do for it. Daniel reminds us that healing doesn't come from forcing change. It comes from curiosity, compassion, and learning to listen differently, inwardly. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to be willing to pause, breathe, and meet yourself where you are. Growth doesn't require perfection. It has a need for presence. Take that with you today. Stay curious. Stay kind to yourself. And remember, healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about reconnecting with who you've always been. Adelante, siempre, por tu mente, forward, always, for your mind. This is the FYI I Am Damaged podcast.
Meet Logan, the strong-minded little elephant who learns that bravery isn't about being fearless. It's about believing in yourself even when you're scared. In this beautifully illustrated story, friends follow Logan through a colorful jungle as he learns to calm his worries, take deep breaths, and remind himself, I am strong, I am safe, I can do this. It's a story that helps kids, and maybe a few grown-ups too, find courage, mindfulness, and strength in their hearts. Logan, the Strong-Minded Little Elephant, by me, Oscar Luna. Available now at all major retailers and my publisher's bookstore, Milton and Hugo. Because it's up to every parent to show that their child deserves to know that strength starts from within.